Said good morning. That's fine. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Kind of day.
Yeah. Good.
I'm going to paper. My computer's dead. Taylor Swift, and we could get popcorn.
Yeah,
maybe popcorn.
Is this like the Taylor Swift concert?
Thursday night?
Yeah, so we're gonna have that whole
Thursday.
thing.
Yeah.
That's
Yes. Yeah. And
They don't have movies at our time.
What one? Go ahead.
I would love one. You don't want it?
What is?
What one for you?
All right, we're gonna start in 1 minute. I'm just gonna pull up the
Enviously
agenda.
looking at my last one.
And then we'll get
You-
going.
I know that may not be the real story, but I appreciate it.
Here's the truth. You got it?
Yeah. Now I gotta bring you one next time.
How you doing? Ready? Good. Me? Good. Huh? How's what? Oh, Joseph, always great.
How old's your
The
grand?
best.
How old is he?
Absolutely the best. Royal pain in the ass, but the best.
What did he do for Halloween?
I don't know.
Oh.
Hung out with his buddies. I don't know. I went to a party, so I didn't keep track of it.
Did
Usually
you go to a party
time
as a
of
grumpy
year.
old man?
She's president of my fan club, you know. Cheers.
I'm gonna move over there. I sat down here because my
No, you
computer,
go.
Yes, sir.
I sat down there because I thought I could plug my computer in, but I can't reach anyone.
Maybe I should buy a laptop. I don't know. I don't. I have a
You don't,
desktop.
don't buy it.
And I have an iPad at the office. But,
When I,
and I have a desktop at home, so.
when I first got it, I
This
loved
thing
it.
does everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you really want to be able to work everywhere?
People on video.
No.
I speak right over. Well, not better.
It's a trap.
Sam leaves tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Oh, really? Yeah. You have not convinced her. I told
Going to Egypt.
Wow.
Egypt. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's Larry? Well, we have 5, so that's okay, but Larry was there. And we lost him, but it's all right. We have a quorum. So, all right. Let's get started. Tom, you are recording it, right?
I am indeed, yeah.
All right, I am calling 6:33. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Woodstock Economic Development Commission, November 2nd. The agenda is up on the screen. Addition will take citizen comments. As always, we usually prefer to accept citizen comments when we are talking about the topic. If you have something that's not, we almost always have time for them at that time. If you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, you can do it at citizen comments. There's 3 items of old business, a follow-up discussion of the emergency fund that we started to talk about 2 meetings ago, proposal for sunset clause language, which we agreed we would have sunset clauses on our grants going forward. But we have a literary subcommittee of Larry and Todd who have drafted the language and for our approval, and talking about the scheduling of the community grant process. A very brief discussion. We have 4 new business items, 2 incentives, rental incentive application for the rental program. Most of our incentives have been for the ADU program. This is for the rental program. The empty storefront incentive, we have an application after 18 months, 24 months, we haven't had one. And then the main, I think, time will be spent on a tourism strategy discussion as I laid out in the memo, and very brief update on the EDC business loan fund, which has not moved anywhere, and therefore we want to acknowledge that it hasn't. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? EDC members. Okay, hearing none. Citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments on topics other than what's on the agenda? I'm looking at our three citizens here. Do we have any citizens online? We have a few. Any comments? Okay, old business, follow-up discussion of an emergency fund. So, sorry, just briefly, for those of you who are here or not on the EDC, we now miraculously, as I noted in the listserv, have send out a memo of 2 or 3 days in advance of the meeting that summarizes what's going to take place at the meeting and puts some context around the issues that are on the agenda. And so if you can make the meeting, it's great to read the 2-page memo because it'll put things in context. If you can't make the meeting, it'll give you a quick 3-minute update of what discussion that you missed. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. So I think, the last time we had this discussion, I think the group was split. The idea of, as I put in the memo, the main argument that I've heard in support of establishing an emergency fund is that in emergencies, the funds need to be distributed immediately within a few weeks. All of our other grants the funds get distributed and dispersed over the course of a year or 18 months. And that getting caught without funds in the bank or without unencumbered funds, which caught us this past time on the lost wages program, or getting caught without cash in the bank, which has never happened because we always have excess cash, could limit our decision making. The arguments I've heard in opposed to establishing a fund is that why make the decision now when we have more flexibility to make it later. So I don't know, Joe, I know you would like to talk about this, and if there anyone else who would like to discuss it as well. Do you want to, or would you rather?
Start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, in my view, the concept is if the last time we had this issue was the flooding, and it was obvious that some of the employees in town needed some help. So we got together. I was on a subcommittee with Liz Green, and we got together with Woodstock Inn and Joe Davies from Hub and try to work out something where the employees, through no fault of their own, are going to be out of work for a couple of weeks. So there's a danger of losing them. They'll get a job someplace else if they can't. And there's plenty of opportunity. We all know that everywhere to get another job. And that would leave the existing businesses, when the so-called crisis is over, without help. So how can we help them stay put where they are and get through this crisis? And I know John mentioned there was some money in the bank, but it wasn't a whole lot. And I think what we ended up doing was getting private funds. And well, first of all, HUD tried to help out, and that wasn't successful because there's a process based on how they do business that was really involved in how to be readjusted and made usable for this specific purpose, and it really wasn't going to work. And I guess there was some private donations that really came up with some money that we could distribute among the employees who are out of work. Well, rather than going through that, I'm thinking, why don't we just set up a little fund where we can set aside $20,000 a year, cap it at $100,000, and not set in stone. If say we get to a point where we have accumulated $60,000, if something comes up that really needs to be addressed, well, we can take it from that, some of it, and then continue to build on after that. It just occurred to me that, we had some major programs that people worked very hard on. And I think, and a lot of people think, are very successful. We spent a lot of time as a committee, as a commission, on housing, employee housing. People who work in town can maybe afford to live in town, which would be a really unique idea. And childcare, so that people who want to work can have someplace safe, sound, and great that they can leave the kids so they can go to work. Well, why not help them stay on the job? Why not, make it available some monies that, they can, so they're not gonna flee and go someplace to work. I mean, I'll give you one glaring example we have is the Woodstock Farmers Market. They were open 6 days a week. Pre-flood, post-flood, 5 days a week, because they don't have enough staff. While it was going on, people get jobs up someplace else. I don't think it's good for, obviously not good for the business. I don't think it's good for the community either. Not to have that place available to go shopping. So anyway, that's the idea, and it seems to me that, if we're gonna have, and it's not a lot of money, 20 grand a year, compared to, a larger amount that we had for housing and childcare that we're able to put together, and great projects, and just very successful in all the accolades you could possibly do. So why not take care of the people so they can stay on the job, and the businesses don't suffer from loss of employees after such and such crisis is over. That's about it.
Okay, any comments? Other comments? I have one comment, which is, sorry. Oh, Beth. Oh, yes, you do have a hand raised, sorry. No,
She's muted.
okay, you're not raising your hand, is that correct? Just give us.
No, I had a point of order question I can ask after this discussion.
Okay, great. If you just jump in and remind me if I don't see the hand, because I'm not looking at that all the time. So just unmute yourself and remind me. Okay, fine. If you're going to monitor, that's great. Patrick used to do that, but you can be the new Patrick. It sounds, Joe, as if you're right now discussing the merits of giving money, of responding to crises. I think which everyone unanimously agreed we should do, and we did. I think the question is whether or not to set aside money for crises that will happen in the future, which we will then have to decide whether to support or not. I think most of us.
That's not exactly
right.
What
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, to think that something that might interrupt a work week and have an effect on a commercial district, think that might never happen again, I think is a bit naive. But I think the better way to go, in my opinion, is handle this more professionally, more in a, I don't want to use the word adult, but with some thoughtfulness and some being prepared for something that we all know maybe it won't, we hope it doesn't, but it's probably going to happen again at some point. And instead of scrambling around like we had to do last time, you got any money? No. We have some, but not enough. How about you guys? Where can we get some money? Instead of doing it that way, what can we just be prepared in a more professional way?
Well, I would argue, I would argue that the last time we didn't scrounge around for money, we had $450,000, sorry, $650,000 in cash. It's now down considerably. I don't know, it's 300,000 or something, because we've given out some of the housing. I mean, the childcare grants, which are very big. I don't think we were constrained at all the last time. I think we decided.
Then why did we have to come up with private funds to get it done?
We didn't have to come up with private funds to get it done. We actually agree. We came up with private funds to get it done.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to. We committed the full amount. And
I think what we had available was like $35,000, $40,000.
All right. So I think go ahead, Marianne, and then I'll. Yeah.
You can finish your point.
I think what's important to discuss is the difference between unencumbered funds and cash in the bank. So we currently have no unencumbered funds. We have promised all of the money that we expect to get this year to the initiatives that we've promised it to. And at the time of the emergency, I think we had 40 $100,000 or so in unencumbered funds.
That's right.
We didn't, we didn't decide to, well, we took some risk of, we decided to borrow a little bit into the next year. And I made the estimate, and I do this sort of on a semi-regular basis of saying, look, we're not likely to get requests for the encumbered funds that will deplete us of cash. We're not likely to run out of cash. And so therefore, and no one asked, what if we want to give $250,000 to the lost wages fund? If they had, we could have decided whether or not that, we had that much cash availability. But
John, excuse me, but if I remember correctly, there was even some discussion, well, we don't have enough money to do this the way we'd like to do it. So there was some discussion, and I remember distinctly talking to Eric Duffy about it, was, well, there's money that has been granted that's not being used right now. Why can't we borrow from that and replace it next year?
Right.
Well, again, my point is, instead of going through all that, why can't we just be prepared? It's like a well-organized body that we are.
There is no all that. It's just deciding to give more money to the program. What I told Eric when Eric suggested that was, what Eric had suggested was, can we take money back from the grantees? Can we tell them that their grants, that to hold off on asking for their funds? But it's basically what you're saying,
Yeah,
and
what we discussed, Eric and I discussed, was not taking it away, was just, we can replenish it with next year's budget.
Right. And what I said was, there's no need to do that. We have more than enough cash. I mean, if we wanted to give $600,000 to the employees fund instead of 70,000, then we would have had to have that kind of discussion at the time, or maybe 400,000. The point is that we didn't scrounge around. We didn't make the program contingent on getting private funds. We asked for private funds. We were being asked whether or not businesses were contributing. We weren't just being asked casually. We were being asked by a small number of people in a way that suggested that they had a point of view about. And anyway, my point is that we weren't scrounging around. We went ahead and committed. I'm not saying. Anyway, I'm not opposed to this fund. I'm just saying that I think that the way we did it, I don't think we have a history of having a problem. We might have a problem in the future.
And maybe in the future, but we had unencumbered, we won't have unencumbered, something happens later on, but we have something set aside and prepared to address that issue, is what I'm proposing.
Yeah, okay, Marion?
So, I'm not sure where I stand on this, but I think the two sides that I'm trying to balance are, on the one hand, I hear like it makes sense that there are going to continue to be unexpected events, and how we deal with them, it makes sense to prepare for them. On the other hand, I don't love in principle the idea of holding on to the money that we get as public servants with a mission to spend it, and just sort of saving it for later when we could be using it now. The idea that like, it's sort of like, are we balancing the need now versus the need then, and deciding that that need then is higher priority than what we're spending it on now? And I'm not sure, but I think it's something to think about, and especially in the situation where the money that we're granting, as John was saying, a lot of the money we've granted is over long timelines. So we often we sort of are in this position where we can almost borrow against our future in terms of like having the cash available. I don't know, but I do think it's worth weighing.
I think we've set
Yeah.
money aside now for future projects.
Yeah.
Why not this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the question is more, I mean, what we really have to ask ourselves is, do we feel like it's more important to say fund childcare or to fund lost wages in the time of a flood?
Why can't we do
And,
both?
and maybe we can
We-
do both, but I mean, that's what we're really asking,
Right, correct.
is where is the money going?
Michael,
Can we split the difference and think of something like a mechanism for open enrollment in point of crisis? Like, rather than like having the funds set aside, but like have a well ironed out mechanism for where we can come up with a decision-making process
Yes.
or already have that decision tree lined out. So that way we can quickly access funds
yes,
at a point of crisis. That way we're not setting.
Right.
Fund.
right, we can actually, and I think we can do that, and I think it achieves both objectives at the same time. Which is what we did, by the way, the last time, but we can, and therefore didn't run into a problem, in either of the past two crises, for exactly that reason. Here's what I think we could do. I think that, again, when we talk about having money available, there's two kinds of availability: unencumbered and there's cash. Cash is always greater than unencumbered. So what we could do is do regular forecasts of how much cash we will have available over the next 6 months. In other words, at the time of the flood, we had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars available. We were not constrained in how much money we gave to that program by how much we were encumbered. We had nothing encumbered, but we had lots of cash, and there was no chance that we were going to use up that cash in the next 6 months. So we could basically say we can send $70,000 out the door. Ultimately, we didn't have to. We only had to send 45 or 40, but we weren't constrained in our decision making. We could do that as a formal, regular process. And anytime we hit a limit, let's say 50,000, let's say or 100,000, whatever. We basically said, okay, our forecast is now that in the next 6 months, we may go below $100,000 or we may go below $50,000. And at that point in time, it's still in advance of an unknown crisis, but crises will happen. They always do. We could then say at this point in time, we're going to stop encumbering more funds. Right, and so so sorry, folks, the grant that you guys have for the empty storefront is going to have to be put on hold, because if we gave you that grant, we would then have the risk that we would be constrained if a crisis occurs in the next 6 months. By the way, every 3 months we get new funding in, and and our forecast may change because people may respond slower than we predict. So that's a process by which we can always be reasonably confident, be quite confident, I think, that we will have a certain amount of cash in the bank to respond to an emergency, but not feel, it will only constrain us in other activities rarely, I guess. Marion?
I want to make sure I'm understanding, because that was kind of complex for
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
So are you saying that with that model, there's a chance that we might have promised someone, say, a grant for a rent reduction or something like that, and then we have to push it back beyond the date that we promised to give it?
Only if our forecast, we don't promise a date to give it.
But say, yeah.
Only if our forecast is wrong, which it could be.
Yeah.
But basically, we have a pattern, and we can go and ask. I mean, so only if our forecast is wrong.
John, I always thought that, as a result of our annual meeting.
Sorry,
Is that-
no, it's my power.
Oh, I was you brought enough for two.
That's electricity, so you can have some of it.
My understanding was that, the annual, meeting that we have in January, the goal is to spend all the money we have.
Right.
Well, that,
To encumber the money that we have.
Okay. Encompass.
Well, not in January. No, not in January. In January is the community grant process. We
Yeah.
said this year 70,000.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
So we would have,
That's
we
right.
would,
But in the past, what we tried to achieve is, use all the money that we have for specific projects. So.
In each year, yeah.
Yeah, right, so. It's unclear to me, you know, I can get a little thick-headed at times.
No, you know,
It's unclear to me how the mechanism would work.
I like the
I don't,
simple
you had me until the last bit of that. and
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, to a small business owner, we can't tell them, sorry, you can't do that thing now. You
Right,
can do
that
it
we
in 3
promised.
months.
Yeah.
Small
Yeah.
business is way too seasonal. That's
Right.
their window for when they have to do that exterior reno. They can't do it during Christmas holiday season, because that's when they're like kicking it.
This might be a case of simpler as,
So I think then the only thing that we can properly do if that thing does get triggered where we run out of funding.
Yeah.
Would be to have a more conservative approach to our modeling in the coming year, and we just have to adjust. Because we can't tell people that they can't have their funding,
right?
or they have to access it.
Or we just go to Joe's original idea and just put aside 10 to 20K every year, which
Is it
might,
important to stay
be easier.
focused on
Yeah.
the facts that we're providing childcare so people can work? We're providing housing so people can work. Does it make sense that we also provide some sort of mechanism that they can stay on the job if
Yeah.
something bad happens? That's all I'm asking.
No, it's not.
It is.
Well, sorry.
You can complicate it all you want.
I'm okay with it. Okay. We had a program to encourage people to stay on the job. And we didn't have an emergency fund. So we don't need an emergency fund to compensate people to stay on the job. The honorable and desirable spending that got us accolades and that we all supported does not require an emergency fund to do. We know that because we did it and we didn't have an emergency fund. So this is not about at all whether or not the thing we spend it on is needed. If it's an emergency and we decide it's an emergency, it's needed. My point, the question is, we've had 2 emergencies. We've never needed an emergency fund. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have one for the future, because there will be another emergency. But the reason why we're struggling with this is that it's not obvious that we need one. We might need one. But we all, so that's what we're struggling with.
All right.
no,
It did not. Well, sorry.
Yeah,
The money came from encumbered funds that have not been used. No, we're not saying that. In the same way, we're not, sorry,
I thought we were saying that.
we're not saying that we are making a commitment to support store owners with their employees. We're not making a future commitment. We could. That's not what's on the table. The emergency fund is for anything. It's not just, unless you think it should just be for employees.
Just
Retention.
that's what I'm discussing. That's what
Oh,
my opening statement said.
I thought it was an emergency fund. It could be for
Any emergency.
it could be for any emergency. For example, the COVID fund.
No, I'm talking about, like I said, I'll repeat myself, so they can stay on the job.
Okay, so
Employees
setting
stay
aside
on-
funds, so making a grant to the employee wages, to the employee lost wages
Right.
fund.
So
Okay,
so
I
the
see.
employers don't lose their folks
I see.
when the crisis is over and they go, oh, now I can't open the doors because I don't have anybody to work here.
Okay,
So that's my point.
got it. Okay, Deborah?
Okay, sorry, again, you knew I was late, but sorry to everybody coming in late. Emergency fund doesn't necessarily correlate with it being about employees. It very well may be, but we don't know what the emergency is.
Deb, when we have you and I were on that subcommittee, didn't we specifically name
Yeah.
what we were doing? What did we name it? Emergency Fund for Employees.
That was for this specific emergency.
And that's what I'm suggesting.
Right, but I'm saying if we're having an emergency, if we're trying to create an emergency fund or put money aside for an emergency,
For employees.
no, I'm not, but that's not what I'm saying.
Right, but Joe, so let's just stay with Joe's proposal for the moment. I
I don't think we
understand.
might not be ready
your point. So I think there's,
What I'm trying to say is that we don't know what the emergency
Of
is.
course we don't.
Right. And therefore, it,
no, no,
Don't
To
know
no.
what
me,
the
it's-
solution is.
The-
But it's only wages. Is from-
All I'm saying is to protect
And I'm
our
saying-
commercial district from being in a situation where after
An event.
an event happens, instead of having 10 people on board as a staff, they've only now got 4 because during that time, people had to get
Mhm.
jobs out of necessity someplace else.
amen, I'm with you. I
That's what I'm
was
saying.
literally with
That's
you.
all I'm saying.
Right, my apologies for mislabeling this proposal. This proposal is not a proposal to establish an emergency fund for emergencies to be used to benefit the community in some fashion.
No.
Perhaps to repay employee wages, perhaps to set up a pop-up emergency healthcare facility, perhaps to rebuild a building that was destroyed, perhaps to hire additional town employees, any of those things that could
Can we
happen.
think of it as an insurance policy that
Right.
ensures that there's some safety net out there for employees
Right.
so they won't
Okay, sorry, I
disappear?
didn't.
No, I misexplained it. This is not what I described. So why don't we do this? Let's just quickly go around and see what people's pulse is to establish 20,000. I don't think we make the decision tonight because we have to get the
Yeah.
details of it if we were to do it.
Right.
But what's people's pulse
Yeah.
as if we're ready now to allocate $20,000 this year or each year, if that's what, to an employee lost wages future emergency fund. I'll just go across here. So
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
And then it will grow. So if
Yeah.
there's not an emergency this year, it
correct,
grows.
it'll stay in.
Exactly.
Correct. It's like it's making a grant.
Okay, and it
Same-
grows and grows until there's an emergency and it might be 80. and we might
Or
be
maybe we
80,000.
limit it. Joe
Okay.
suggested we might limit it to some amount.
To some amount.
But this is similar to saying we want to spend $100,000 on childcare or $100,000 on healthcare.
Understood.
Just a kind of an informal sense of the group, so we can decide whether to develop the detailed proposal quickly or not.
Understood.
Deborah, are you in favor, unsure, or?
I am totally in favor of this. And I'd like to put a caveat.
Can we just do sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I'm being,
All right, so in favor.
but I'd like to. put a
A
caveat.
non-binding in favor, yes.
Okay, Joe.
I think it's terrible. I think it's a great.
I'm opposed.
More about how the mechanism would work and how we would define emergency. 'Cause that's we haven't even touched on that of like, what's the political blowback when someone comes to us with an emergency and we say, that's not an emergency, we're not gonna come to your thing.
Good point.
Well, it's not a thing, it's lost wages.
Or we can't fund your loss with, that a business burns down, are we paying that?
No, this funds cannot be used that would not be used for that, right?
No, but. it
Just
could
for
pay the
lost
wages.
Oh, yeah, sorry, to pay the wages of the building burns down.
Well, it was our.
Let me just go.
You know, I don't know.
So you're unsure, Larry?
Well, I'm unclear whether the goal that we set up when we gave out this money was actually achieved. I know the money was well received. Did we stop people from leaving Woodstock or Woodstock employment? I don't know that. So I guess I'm a little confused.
All
If
right, so
we're getting-
I'm just, for the purposes of this go around, I'm gonna count you as unsure.
That's
is that-
that was my next point.
Yeah, okay, as opposed to negative or positive. All right, Greta, I just want to get a sense of it because Greta,
I'm also unsure.
all right, so it's, no one opposed, one person opposed, 3 unsure, 3 in favor. So my suggestion is that the 3 who are in favor get together and put together this specific proposal, address the couple of questions that were asked. Is there a limit?
Well, I don't have.
How do we
define emergency?
How do we define an
How do
emergency
we
and so forth?
create
And
this
let's,
mechanism work?
that's the kind of thing, if we were to set up a
Okay,
program, a
okay.
lost wages emergency fund, let's define it and
Okay.
come back with a proposal. This would be a major grant proposal. It wouldn't be part of the community.
This is what I get for a conditionally in favor on my.
You should have one of the folks, and I'm gonna call it, one of the folks who are unsure be part of, do one of the 3 unsures participate?
What do you say, Greta? Jump on board.
Greta has her, well, sorry, she's got her hands full on the one.
No.
She's,
Wait, you want me to be involved with writing the proposal?
Greta,
Only
to be
if you
fair-
want to.
To be fair, sorry.
Yeah, I think I'll pass it on to someone else. I'm
She's got her
I'm
hands
in
full.
the marketing weeds right now.
Larry.
So Larry or Michael, do you wanna, at least, how about, would you agree to have it run by you so that you can ask questions? How's that?
Yeah.
Why don't you send it to Larry and Michael?
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to, yes, I would be more than happy with that too.
Just sort of do all of that offline and then, sort of tweak it, see if you can address the questions. Your job is to ask questions. Your job is to come up with answers. Yeah. How's that? Is that a reason?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
The only thing is, this book they put out, Computers for Dummies? Well, I have a signature copy
Mhm.
and I will not.
I'm not gonna be your secretary.
I want a secretary.
I'm not
Somebody,
gonna sit-
somebody can organize a Zoom thing.
Yep, that's not gonna happen,
Oh,
but I will, so,
I'll figure it out.
okay, happy to do
Do it the old fashioned.
that.
All right.
I see where you're going.
Larry, you can now hear because you're laughing, not randomly, I assume. Because you said you couldn't hear.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Okay, got it. Sorry. Roger. I know Beth, sorry. Roger was first, or maybe you were first, but Roger and then Beth.
Love you, Joe. You just can't hear what anybody in the audience is saying.
Oh, in the audience. Okay, son. Roger, can you just take the little mic? No.
My opinion is you're painting yourself into a corner. This level of specificity. I absolutely support the work you've done in the past to have an emergency response. It's been tremendously helpful to the town. But if you say it's only this, you can't predict that it's going to be that. And then you've got this tranche of money essentially sitting around. Now, you could theoretically re-legislate it, but I would leave it as open-ended as possible to Mike's point that you also need to be very clear on defining how you're going to declare something being an emergency. But to have a lost wages fund as the emergency fund is tying your hands when you might need something else.
Well, Michael's
I
going to,
can't believe.
hello? I think Michael's going to make that point, and I mean, you're going to.
So that's
Yes, that
the caveat, and I was just about towards it being open-ended, because I don't personally want to create something that's just lost wages. So that's my caveat with it.
All right, well, okay, well, we're still
We're
then,
still in that.
if you, well, okay, the proposal, you're opposed to the proposal.
No, I'm,
The proposal is to limit it to lost wages. That doesn't mean in the future, we can't relax that.
I didn't
Right,
hear,
right.
I didn't hear that it was limited.
Joe, would you clarify that for Dr.?
That's what my point was. My point was to ensure that a business owner will have
Yeah.
their
I can-
employees
Yes. I'm
there
sure
when they want to open up
ensuring-
again.
You know,
I
guys,
I don't think they are separate. I
Okay,
think you can ensure and have it.
Right. So you have the right to drop out if it turns out that, so. Yeah,
I think
So I'm a committee of one, and I vote for.
I think it would be helpful to have another opinion.
Some really.
I think it would be
Guys.
helpful to have another opinion in there.
Okay, look, my basic point is that this is not a group gathered in a public meeting
Right.
to create a proposal. I guess maybe the best way to put it is, Joe, if you want to do something, come forward with a specific proposal that's sufficient for us to grant. You know,
it's down to a committee.
No, Marion is interested, Deborah is interested with the caveat.
I mean, you're looking for some
Yes.
bullet points. I'm happy to meet.
Well, we're looking for, we're looking for some, if we're gonna put $20,000 a year towards something, we're looking for a proposal that is robust as the other proposals we've gotten for similar amounts of money.
Right.
So I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what I tried to express in this meeting is that I don't have a strong opinion about it.
Okay, so,
Like I'm unsure.
all right, well then, Joe, I think why don't you seek input from anyone on the EDC, come forward with a proposal that is as robust in terms of its specificity and clarity
Yeah.
as other proposals for this amount of money.
Okay, send me an email or text or whatever about your ideas about how it should be formulated, and, we'll work it
All
out.
of us.
Yeah, all
Oh,
of it,
yeah.
anybody.
Okay. All right. Beth, you had your hand raised on a point of order when we finished this discussion. Which, yeah,
I'm just curious because I'm just looking at the people that are online and there's just an iPhone. It would be just nice to know, and it's my fault because I'm not at the meeting. I could be there. So there's an iPhone person here that we don't know. And obviously there's people in the audience that I'm just,
okay, why don't we do this? That's a good point, Beth. We don't usually take the time. Could the person who's the iPhone unmute themselves and just say who they are so we can record it? And then, Roger, can you just pass, I don't know everyone in the audience. The people I know are Roger, Susie, and Jeffrey. And the two of you are, you'll introduce.
They will.
Yes, you're from Echo.
I'm Will Hurd.
Nathan Howell.
Hi, Nathan. I'm Victoria Hurd.
Okay, and then everyone, so Will and Victoria, and I think everyone else is identified. Stuart is Stuart Matthews. Stuart, is that right? Okay.
and the iPhone was whom?
Will, sorry, Nathan, could you say your name again?
Nathan Howell.
Howell. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Beth. I think that's a good addition. I'm sorry for not doing that. I tend to.
I think we have Taylor Swift downstairs.
Yeah, we have Taylor Swift downstairs. Okay, sunset clause language. Another one? Yeah, that was Larry saying he couldn't hear.
So why don't we leave it as, just send me a text or an email about your ideas, and I'll try to formulate something and bring it next meeting.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
That's hard, huh?
And I'm sorry, Joe, for my misunderstanding the
good.
specificity of it. So here is the language. Just take a moment to look at it if you haven't seen it. This is proposed to be included in all of our grants going forward. So starting in January. So just take a quick look.
Boy, it sounds like they're having a party downstairs.
There has been a suggestion by Ray Bourgeois that we modify this to say that only one extension would be granted. We don't, it's just a suggestion. So are there any, I think this is pretty, Larry and Todd drafted this. It's pretty clear what it is. Does anyone have any concerns about this? And before we discuss the suggestion, any concerns? Okay, good. Any comments about the suggestion? Michael, you think it's not a good idea because, is that right?
Yeah. Because, if they need, hey, it's gonna come this month, oh, never mind, it comes 3 months later, there's stuff. Obviously, if they have something running into an extension that's beyond their cost controls.
No, they would get an extension. It's just a question of getting.
Right, so if they can't control it in the first window in which it was supposed to be delivered or be spent, maybe they can't control it. I would much rather us say, we have the ability to work with our grantees rather than say only one.
We make a decision as to when something is unreasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments about this?
No, John, these good people, all they have for one item.
Yeah.
We could probably
Yeah.
jump to that.
Yeah, we can skip over the next one. Sorry, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just for an issue.
All right.
I just have one question about it. There are a couple of things that are granted that are going to take longer than a year. So there just needs to be language in there for grants that are longer than a year.
I think it is in there. I think.
That's what that first phrase is all about.
Any balance that,
Otherwise provided by the terms of this grant. So if they know that.
any balance not, unless otherwise provided.
Yeah.
In other words, the idea is that
Okay, that's the,
in other words, the default is 1 year, but at the time of the grant, we can change that.
okay, that's the,
So it just sort of puts a stake in the ground without
Amen.
it being done.
Got it.
Any other questions or concerns? Is anyone in favor of the limiting it to one extension? Okay, so then, let's have Larry, can you make the motion to adopt this?
I am moved to adopt the proposed sunset clause language as part of our standard grant process.
Okay, second by Michael. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? No. Are you voting? You
No,
said aye. Okay, sorry. All right. Very good. Okay, yes. So we'll come back to scheduling the community grant process. Let's just go to the empty storefront incentive application. So oops, sorry, let me just go back for a second, just to the agenda. So well, here, I'll just go to the application. Let's put it up on the screen.
I gave you the application.
Yeah, no, I have it here. It's in the back.
There it is.
All right. So just a quick introduction. We have funds remaining in the empty storefront program. There are criteria for the program that I think you got a copy of that I think and hope you meet, but I just want to make sure that this is the case. And I apologize. I only refreshed my memory on these criteria yesterday.
I gave them a copy of the criteria and we spoke about it and it clearly met, all the steps.
So it has been vacant for 6 months. The criteria for everyone's benefit are, there's a location which you fit into. There's the storefront has to have been empty for 6 months.
It's the furniture from Sea Shepherd's house, and
No, it has to be actively occupied. Okay. The third is that at least the third is that it can't exceed $2.50 per foot, which yours does not. I'm just repeating that you qualify for that. Fourth, the question I had a question about is 70% of the space that is being incentivized needs to be focused on retail. And I didn't know whether your downstairs area is equal to the upstairs area. And if so, what percentage of your space being rented is focused on retail?
absolutely. And retail, are you defining that as open to the public? Because our whole space is dedicated to our retail operation.
No. The intention.
Upstairs, yes, the upstairs is about 1,300 square feet, and it's 1,300 and then a little bit less on the downstairs, and that is fully dedicated to our retail.
The upstairs is.
Yes, sir.
Actually, it's interesting. The language doesn't say. It doesn't say open to the public. It says retail. So I think in the absence of clarity, we're going to assume that, as you say, it's all supporting retail.
Yeah,
and right. Okay.
A lot of it.
The only request that I have then is that the executed lease be attached.
Oh, sure.
So if you would just send that to us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there any discussion or questions about this? In the past, this was handled, we delegated this to the administrator of the EDC. The only reason we've never discussed it before is we delegated it to Sally, and Sally had these discussions. Rather than recreate the position of administrator, I thought we just put it in front of the EDC since it's not very frequent. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve this?
I move. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So just send us the lease. You can send it to me. Fine.
You got it. And where can I find your email?
Pretty much everywhere. That's fine. If you just want to send this stuff to Joe, that.
Victoria, you can just give it to me. I'll give it to him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We're so grateful. The community has been nothing but incredibly supportive, kind, and loving. So thank you to you all.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Really impressing. 34-year-old.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
And the grandparents are loving all of our organic baby clothes. So
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. All right, very good. Thanks, Joe, for
Yeah.
setting. I'm sorry that I.
See ya.
Okay. Just briefly, to go back to our last old business item, scheduling the community grant process. So we agreed on this publicly. I will do so by the end of this weekend. There's some system enhancements. I'm trying to get, the application is identical to last year. The announcement will be essentially identical to last year. The only difference will be the comments about the business loan fund, which is why that's on the agenda. But absent that, everything is identical. The system changes we're making is bringing it into the grant manager portal so that it's not a separate app on the website. It's all part of grant manager. So from this point forward, we track grants from the application all the way through to closing the grant and no longer. And it's going to help us in the long run reduce costs. Technically, there's some little glitches. And so if I can't solve them, we'll have it announced by the end of this weekend. So that's at the beginning of November. If the applications are due on January 16th or the Friday of that week, that gives people 2.5 months. And it gives them time after the holidays to quickly get it in, which is why we decided to do it last year. So, and you all agreed on that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to discuss just briefly is the scheduling of time to answer questions prior to our decision meeting.
When is the decision meeting?
And the second thing is to decide when the annual meeting is, which is the decision meeting. So, I can, in terms of the annual meeting, that's easy. It would be in the second half of January, right? Because the deadline is the 15th or the 16th. So if you want, I can just send around a poll to establish it. It's usually been on a Saturday because it takes 3/4 of a day, depending on the number of applications. Are people still comfortable with a Saturday in the second half of January? Any objections to that? Oh, actually, maybe we just, I guess there's probably only 2 Saturdays, right? So should we just pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
So, have their calendars out.
I do. Right here.
So we're talking 20th
Yeah.
or 27th or 30th?
Yeah.
20th
20th or 27th,
or 27th, yeah.
it comes in.
Oh, right.
Any 20th or 27th? I mean, 27th gives us a little bit more time.
I think maybe give us an extra week to.
Yeah.
meet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyone opposed? Anyone have a problem with the 27th?
cramming for the 20th. Yeah, let's do the 27th.
Okay, so the annual meeting on Saturday, January 27th, we usually start at 9 or 9:30. You know,
Do
unless,
pizza again, Sam, what we're doing?
sorry,
We doing pizza again?
we didn't do it last year. We had coffee and
Oh, we got those sandwiches from
Those sandwiches,
April
cannot
Fools or
do
something
that
like
again.
that.
that was bad.
I
Oh,
vote
Bobby.
against those sandwiches.
All right.
So,
Very
I
sensitive.
think it was made it.
No, anybody here
Those
will
three
take
sandwiches.
But I don't.
Okay. All right, we'll have the sandwich discussion sometime between now and then. Michael brought up the point at the last meeting that when we all agreed that a shortcoming of the process is to make sure that we want to give grant applicants more opportunity to get informal feedback and to answer questions and so forth, rather than at the decision meeting, which can be, you know, there's a very limited time if we get a lot of applications.
Mhm.
One thought that I had was to use a good portion of the December and January regular monthly meetings as kind of open sessions. And maybe we keep as much as we can off of the agendas for those 2 meetings and tell people, okay, it's November 4th, we're opening it up. On December 2nd and January 3rd, we've got an hour and a half of our 2 hours
That
to.
is a great idea.
This was.
Is that means we don't, yeah. Any folks online, that means we don't have to reschedule, you know. Are you all comfortable with that? Okay. All right, so that's the schedule then. And we will do our best to keep other items off of the agenda for those 2. Okay, moving on. Rental incentive application. Trina, we have another unit coming online, hopefully.
Good.
Yes, we do.
And I will get the item, hold on.
Would you like me to share my screen?
Yeah, that would be better. Hold on, let me stop mine. I stop mine. Hold on, just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Why is it, where's my stop sharing? Oh, stop sharing, that big red button. Okay, and hold on, Trina, I gotta give you permission.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You may have to change the splitting again. Oh, yeah. Don't have big, that's okay.
Okay. Does everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, hello, I'm Trina Tolliver, the Housing Advisor for the EDC Housing Working Group. And we have a new application for the rental incentive workforce rental program. The application's from Todd Quartercamp and Beth Hunt. They are applying for a 2-year term to house 2 qualified tenants and 2 children. Based off our table for the grants, that would be an incentive of $8,400. The location of the property is 675 College Hill. It's a 3-bedroom and 1.5 bath home. They meet all of the eligibility requirements, and a site inspection has been completed by myself and Jill. Property is on a well and septic, and David Green has already been over there for pre-inspection.
Next page.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. They are submitting the state and fire safety permit paperwork now, and they have a family of 4, the ones that I mentioned, that will become the official tenants for that home. Both of the adults work in Woodstock, and they plan to charge a rent of $1,500 for a 3-bedroom, and the tenants pay the utilities. So very reasonable and attainable rate, and even less than what we require for a 3-bedroom. Here's a photo of the home.
You know, any questions or comments from the EDC?
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trina.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
can we, well, let's just take an official vote. Someone just make a motion to approve this. Joe? Second by Michael. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Trina, thank you. Also, I want to report back, Trina, and to the EDC that our request to the select board to recombine the 2 ADU incentive programs that we have into one bucket of funds has been approved. If you remember, we have a multi-unit program and a single unit program. The criteria are slightly different because the legal requirements are slightly different. I made the mistake of suggesting we have 2 separate pots of money, when in fact, there's no reason to have 2 separate pots. We're just using it to create ADU. So Trina will continue to manage the 2 according to their different legal requirements, but financially, the select board is obviously fine as we were with 1 pot. So Trina, you now have the official ability to do that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'll update the reporting that I've showed you in the past to be just the 1 bucket now, and we'll go from there, and we'll use that for ongoing years as well.
Great. Okay. Thank
Great
you.
going. Wonderful.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Trina. Okay, let's just quickly get the update on the EDC Business Loan Fund. Larry and I were supposed to put that, and Joe, sorry, the 3 of us were supposed to push that forward. We haven't yet. Given what's on our plate, I don't think we will be in the next few months. So I think this is just a heads up that.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, for me personally, what came to light is the other options that are available if somebody needs a loan for their business. I mean, that speaks to me as just the idea isn't as critical as I initially thought. I guess what I'm saying.
Well, I should, yeah, sorry, I should basically say, that this idea is not being taken off the table, and if anyone else wants to push it forward, you're welcome to. And I still think I think that there are other alternatives. I think it's still worth exploring. I don't know whether that leads us to establish it or not, but I think it's worth exploring. I don't have the time. I don't think Larry has the time.
I don't.
So we're just sort of, and Joe doesn't. So I think we're sort of saying, we're just admitting that, that's all, and just leaving it on the agenda without any expectation of a
Shelve
progress.
Right.
Sorry?
Just shelve it.
Yeah, yeah. Setting it on the holding pattern. And this has one small effect. Last year, if you remember the brilliantly crafted listserv announcement, I know you all keep track of my listserv announcements. When we announced
It'll be hanging on my wall.
yeah, exactly. Framed copies are available at Gilliam's, by the way. We tried to clarify, I think successfully clarified last year, that applications from for-profit businesses were accepted, were allowed and encouraged, but that the EDC was going to look for a community benefit along with the business benefit.
Yeah.
That's simply saying, please give me money to expand my kitchen, because if I expand my kitchen, my business will grow. That's admirable, and there are other sources for that, but the EDC would like to say, great, you can have the benefit, but can the kitchen be available for community use on Thursdays or something of that sort? The announcement then ended with a paragraph that said, businesses that are interested in purely business things could potentially apply to a business loan fund if we create one. It's under development. I'm going to leave that paragraph out, not because we won't do it, but because we haven't yet. And so that's sort of.
John, has anybody ever approached or applied or thought about it or even made inquiries about it at all?
It's hard.
Well,
it's hard to draw.
what I'm getting to, it doesn't look like the demand is there.
There may not be. I think to some extent, no, I mean, has a person never said, well, would you loan us money or something? Yeah. I mean, it's come up a few times. It's not.
Yeah.
We did a long time ago, but it wasn't an ongoing program. It was a request for funding, and we said, would you accept a loan?
Yes.
Right, and we've done that one other time, I think.
Yes,
So the idea here was to, I don't want to read, again, we're putting this, anyway, it was really a communications point. I'm going to leave off that last sentence, sort of enticing businesses to say this is coming soon, because it's not coming soon. It doesn't mean it won't ever come, so. Unless anyone disagrees, I don't know what else to write, so. Okay. All right, the last topic of discussion is our tourism strategy discussion, is how I've talked about it. And there are 4 or 5 parts to this discussion. Let me tell you what the parts are, and we can try to allocate our time. We'll definitely end on time, but
what is on time? Do we have on time?
8:30 is what we've been in, 2 hours, and I think we've been sort of sticking to that, which is for me the first time in my, not totally sticking to it, but close. Okay, here are the parts. The community survey. There's not much. There's nothing. There's no new conclusions, but I will just remind you of the conclusions very briefly. The slides are all in here. I'll put them up on the screen in a second. The second, which is new, is results from the visitor survey, and I'll share that. Third is a discussion again, but I'd like to formalize it, and I think it's something that we would review with the select board, even though there's no definition of what we're supposed to review or not. We clearly have to review funding them. This isn't a funding decision, it's a strategy point. But the discussion about how we word what has been a marketing objective and what I think should be a tourism, developing and growing a tourism economy objective. It leaves marketing as a central part of that, but it also includes the experience that visitors, residents, and merchants have as part of tourism. So I'd like to talk about that language.
Downtown redevelopment. Oh, right.
That's part of the experience, absolutely. Yeah. A very brief update from Greta and Marion on the marketing working group. but there's really, yeah, very brief. And finally, a discussion about a date and a approach to a public meeting this month, which I think we're now ready to, even though we haven't done the merchant survey yet. I think, Greta and Marion, I want to talk to you about this. I think we can launch the merchant survey next week at the meeting of the merchants. We can at least print it out and give it to them. But I think we're ready on the other two surveys to have a public meeting. We will now have previewed the top line results of both of those surveys in a public EDC meeting. So I think we're ready to have that public meeting in November. I just want to talk about anything about that. So we leave this meeting tonight with an agreement on the date and how we're going to go about that meeting. I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, the community, let me just put up the slides. The community survey, there are no new conclusions. There is new information. We had 370 people respond, and there are still 8 people, I don't know how many, Susie called the other day and said there's people who want to, what's the link? And I went to the town hall, there were 4 people who had filled it out on paper, and I have to key it in. So it's not going to change the conclusions, but it's a fantastic response, and I think it's pretty cool. All right, I have to share this. Give me a second. Let's see if it's going to show the whole thing. May not. No, all right, hold on. Let me just make it a little wider. All right. I injured my hand. I can't move my hand much. Okay, there we go. Sorry, hold on. Almost done. Incredibly frustrating to watch. Okay. All right. You've seen these slides before. The numbers are slightly different, but they're not dramatically different. Basically, the conclusions stay the same. Most people understand the benefits from tourism. 98% have some understanding that it helps local stores and restaurants thrive. About half the people, this is the least, think that to some extent tourism creates a more diverse local experience for residents. That's all the way over on the right. Half the people don't really think that. A little less than half the people don't think that it has much benefit. But broadly speaking, here are 5 different benefits. It encourages visitors to consider moving here, increases the number and quality of activities for residents, it increases property values, creates a more diverse environment. People understand that tourism it benefits Woodstock. And so, as Susie's made this point earlier, no one is arguing that we shouldn't have tourism, and the community understands that. Okay. At the same time, to me, at least, a surprisingly large number of people say that they regularly experience some of the negative effects of tourism. And so the bottom 3, going from the bottom, the way to read this is going from the bottom of the chart, the bottom category, the blue, is people who experience the problem. Let's take the left-hand column, difficulty getting a reservation at a restaurant. They experience that problem daily. That means that someone, actually 15% or 45 people, eating out 360. Yes. Right, and now they can't. Right. I think the point is that it's very clear, and there's some other results that I think I highlighted in the memo, and I don't have to. It has to do with bodily functions, which is also by 2 people observed daily. It's clear that emotion is affecting to some extent some number of applicants. This survey is not designed to answer the question, what % of the people can't make a reservation how many days a year? It's designed to answer the following question for the EDC. Should we be thinking more purposefully and maybe dedicate resources to improving the experiences of the respondents? In this case, it's residents. In the next survey case, it's visitors. That's what we're trying to answer. Do the results tell us that we should think about this, work hard, maybe spend money and do something? And the answer to me in both cases is yes, we should. Of course. Right. Right. And so Correct. And tonight, we're not gonna get into what the low hanging fruit is. What I'd like to see come out of this meeting is say, look, let's start the brainstorming at the public meeting about what we might do, but let's just agree that the results say we should figure out, we need to tackle this. Now, whether we can or not, what the best ideas are and so forth, that's to come, but let's commit to that
We're
effort.
approaching it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's what, and the survey, to me, both surveys lead to that conclusion. The conclusion doesn't change. So we don't have to quibble about the definition. Well, the community, I think, we'll come to the meeting, but I think a main purpose of the meeting is to start, first is to share the information, but then is to start to receive ideas. And by the way, just so you know, I've already started, this isn't my doing, but people just send me emails. Yeah, you did. You're not the only one today. The 3 people sent me emails. By the way, the 3 of you, 2 of whom are in the room today, there's one idea, which relates to buses, that all 3 of you sent in. So that's pretty clearly low hanging fruit, right? So we'll get to that next meeting. That's going to be fun. But basically, if you look at
John, we can't hear whoever is speaking. I presume it's Susie, but I cannot hear a word she's saying.
Sorry, she's basically broadly supporting what I've just been saying. And you know what, if Jeff, if you either move closer or we'll throw you the puck. But can you just take the puck so if you guys have more comments? Jill, all right, you'll walk over. Sorry, Larry. Apologies for that.
But maybe I'm the only one that can't hear it. I don't know.
No. Others have said the same thing. You'll be able to hear now. Just taking the puck. All right, so basically the bottom 3, the blue is daily, the orange is weekly, the gray is monthly. If you say monthly is you're experiencing things, then about 60% of the people are experiencing reservation difficulty, parking difficulty, traffic jams, 40% are inappropriate behavior, long lines and poor service or poor service from local stores. So it's a meaningful number. To be honest, we could stop at this point. There's one more chart which talks about whether they're bothered by these things. And the blue is bothered a lot. The orange is bothered somewhat. By the way, I experience these things at some reasonable frequency. None of these things bother me, but I'm a minority because more than half the people are somewhat bothered or bothered a lot. Again, so those 2 charts sort of say they've answered the question. We should do something. Let's try to figure out what we can do. And again, this makes the other point. Even people who rarely or only on peak days experience some of the problems are quite bothered, which again, I think points, there's something about people's attitudes about how much bothered they should be, but it's just sort of interesting human condition, I suppose. It doesn't really change our conclusion. So any other questions about by the way, this survey data, I will strip off the people's names. I'd say 30 or 35%, a third of the people put their email address because they wanted to get a summary. We'll use that to invite them to the meeting. We'll send them a copy of these documents. The rest of it, I don't think anything needs to be cleansed. Anyone who wants to take this and look at, particularly the open-ended comments, you're welcome to. And they need to be analyzed, and they will be a big contribution, I think, to the public meeting. There's 970 specific comments, meaning some people, say, I feel this and I feel that, and I think this and I think that. My system has split those up. So it's a big deal, and I haven't analyzed all of them. So just FYI. Okay, so any questions about the community survey, which again, this is the second time you've seen this data. It's just new data, but same conclusions. Jeff.
When I see something that says people having difficulty parking monthly, things like that, it tends to make me believe that the timing of the survey has influenced that strongly. Because if they had received the survey in March or April, I don't think you'd have gotten the same number of people saying they had trouble parking monthly or even today.
Yeah.
So that part's a little skewed. So I just wanted to say that.
I think that's right. And so just to put forward the work that we need to do, to begin to describe the work that we need to do, we should not go from this to let's implement idea 7. We need to go, what I would say is we need to go, for example, on parking. we need to say, okay, we need to really figure out, people are bothered by parking. We really need to figure out when the parking is a problem. What are the whole range of solutions? We need to analyze it. But what we need to do is have a group look at parking. Right? And not assume that everyone can't get parking every day.
All the time.
Right. The same thing is going to be true about food. The same thing is going to be true about any of these problems. So in my view, if we should come up with a short list of problems like parking, that scope, parking, food, maybe a couple of others, and get groups to kind of look at those, figure out the answers to the scope and nature of the problem, and propose options for addressing it. You're shaking your head.
Well, I keep saying parking. I quickly shares, I came here 35 years ago, and it was in August, and we moved in our house on a Wednesday. Thursday morning, I got up 35 years ago. I said, I'm gonna find out more about this town I live in. I walked downtown to pick up a Standard. Headline was, 35 years ago, Woodstock has a parking problem. 35 years ago.
Right.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, do we have a parking problem, or do we have a problem with parking? But but it just, I can't help but think that that's kind of ironic.
Yeah. So so we're not going to solve that group may conclude we don't have a parking problem. For what it's worth, and I've told a couple of people this, on Saturday, September 29th at 2 p.m. So just at the beginning of the peak season on a Saturday afternoon, beautiful weather, I went around and counted the empty parking spaces between the rec center and Worthy Kitchen. Wow. Which
you had a great Saturday, huh?
2:15 p.m.
You got too much free time, John.
Yeah.
All right. How many empty parking spaces are there? Were there? Right.
6.
You can tell us. I told him and he got the number wrong. 288 empty spaces. Empty spaces. Right.
Wow.
But we want to park 3 doors
I
down.
understand people want to park on the sidewalk. Yeah.
Park illegally on both sides of Bond Street. Toward the,
That's a different, by the way, in the comments and in the visitor survey, that's a different issue. You could call that a parking issue, but I would actually treat that as a separate issue. That's a behavior. It's a traffic. Anyway, the point is, yes, that's a different issue. What I'm saying doesn't address it. Anyway, this kind of analysis would be the start of what this group. So I don't think we need to build. Anyway, I'm not trying to solve the problem. I'm just giving you that information. We need to figure out, of the major things that are of concern, what really is the problem. This doesn't tell us precisely what the problem is. What really is the problem, if there is one, and then what can we do to fix it? So, okay. Now let me just share with you the visitor survey, because this is new information. Unfortunately, we have 115 people. Now, all of these people have been to Woodstock. This is a survey of people who have come to Woodstock.
How'd you find them?
Because we came off of a list of people who gave their email address to the visitor center.
I got that email.
There were 2 emails. So there was the visitor center email.
Right.
There was also,
I don't want that in my house. Everybody have that.
right. That one didn't come from.
Yeah, no,
that
sorry.
list.
No, hold on. No. There is one survey which starts with, have you visited Woodstock? There were 2 invitations. One of the invitations was sent to the database of people that are in our marketing platform, 30+ thousand people. The same survey invitation, a different invitation, the same survey, pointing to the same survey, was sent by the chamber's list of people who have given their email address at the Welcome Center. We are going to analyze from which invitation list the responses came. Not anecdotally. It appears that they may have come largely or almost entirely from the chamber's list. Because the moment that the invitation was sent out by the chamber, in the 24 hours that followed, we got 108 responses. And I don't know exactly when the other one was sent out, but I think it was 2 or 3 days earlier.
Greta.
Sorry, Greta, go ahead.
The class 4 email went out on Wednesday morning and the visitor center email went out on Thursday afternoon. So there was, maybe 24 to 36 hours difference.
All right, so all right, so I'll do that analysis and I'll let you know.
But and just to add to that, the visitors center list are verified visitors, whereas the marketing initiative email list is a lot of, people we're hoping are going to come that obviously haven't come.
Well, or may have come. We don't know whether they've come or not.
Well, right. Largely people who have not visited.
Right. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna figure that out. But the point is that it's a small number, but they're highly qualified to tell us about their experiences. Because remember, the survey was, what was your experience? So
John, it's Tom Ayers. May I ask a quick question? In terms of numbers, how many visitors or former visitors were on the chamber list versus how many went out through the marketing list?
I'm sure there's an overlap, and we're going to find out what that was. But so we're going to find out. I don't write about that yet. We don't know. Sorry, you can if you want, but we don't know. That's the analysis I'm suggesting we do. That may give us some insight into the nature of the two lists.
Right.
But right now, what we do know for sure is that the 115 people have visited Woodstock because they answered the question yes. Actually, 3 people who responded said no, and then the survey ends. So
it was roughly the visitor center list was roughly 5,000 people, correct, Beth?
Just under.
Thank you.
Just under 5,000.
We do need to cross-reference. I mean, it's possible that all 5,000 of those are on both lists. I mean, hopefully they would be shared, but anyway, that's a different issue. So
you would think so, yeah.
Okay, so we asked them a series of, but we basically said, how satisfied were you over? We asked them 2 basic questions. How satisfied were you? Very satisfied, neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. And we also asked them, how likely are you to recommend visiting Woodstock? Very likely, somewhat likely, neither likely nor unlikely, somewhat unlikely.
Such an important question.
Right.
It really is.
And the responses give us the same conclusion. We then asked them how satisfied or dissatisfied they were with 5 aspects of their visit. If you remember, dining, lodging, shopping, outdoor activities, cultural activities. And so we have those results. We also asked them, and this is important subtlety, tell us about the answers to all of these questions pertain to your most recent visit. So just tell us about the most recent visit. When was that? So we did not, when we talk about changes over time, we didn't ask Marion, you visited here in 2023, you also visited in 2017. Actually, we did ask whether or not it was better or worse. So we have a little bit of trending, but we don't have people in 2017 saying, this is how satisfied I was because I came in 2017 and I remember it because it was last week. And then the same thing in 2023. That's normally how you would do this, but we can't go back in time, right? We didn't think of doing this survey in 2017. So we did the best we could. And saying we took the people who said their last visit was before 2023, and we compared them to the people who said that their last visit was this year, and that's what the results you're seeing. So it's not as good a way of doing it, but we had no choice, and we wanted to get a sense of the trends. So the blue is either very satisfied. The blue is very satisfied, and the orange-ish is satisfied. So 86% of the 115 people were satisfied. I think about 1/3 of them were before 2023, and 2/3 of them were this year. 97% were satisfied in prior years, 81% this year. You could say that the 97%, again, maybe you people, oh, I had such a great time, I've forgotten what went wrong, whatever it is, it's 81% satisfaction this year. That's not bad. It could be better. It's a little worrisome that it's gone down, or it seems like it's gone down. I'm just going to keep going so we can talk about these. Same thing on likely to recommend. Blue is the very likely to recommend. Orange is somewhat likely to recommend. So 70 to 90% of the people, depending on what you say, will say that they recommend, well, they'll recommend it to a friend. So the conclusion that most people are leaving Woodstock and telling people not to come is not correct. Most people are leaving Woodstock and telling people to come. Of the people we surveyed, correct. It's 100% of the people we surveyed, and it's 100% of the visitors we surveyed. I understand.
Yeah.
Correct, but that's true of any survey. You can only get around that with a census of every person who ever came here.
That's people and,
You mean the residents? Right.
but with this one, how many people have come, probably 1 million people.
I think it's fair. Okay, the conclusion that I think is reasonable to draw is that most visitors have a good experience. And most visitors are willing to recommend to their friends to come again. I think you could, yeah, that's the, I mean, it's, let's put it this way. Before we did the survey, we had some people saying that everyone had a bad experience and other people saying that everyone had a good experience. And now we talked to 115 people and this is what they said. We would have liked to have more. And by the way, we did discuss having an incentive and decided not to spend money on that. And if we decide, remember again the question that we're trying to answer. If we decide that we can't answer that question, I think we would need to spend money, and we could spend money, it wouldn't bankrupt us to kind of get more answers. But I would argue that we act on this and draw the conclusion I'm saying. But again, let's keep going. You all can disagree, or anyone can disagree with this. Roger?
Do you have any access to, say, satisfaction data from, say, like the N or something like that? Because I'm sure they do some kind of survey. I don't know if they would share with you, but they might share gross numbers.
Yeah. We have not yet accessed it. They do have data. And I think it would be.
And there may be others. I don't know.
No. I think
Hire or somebody.
I think it would be very useful to reach out to them. Yeah. Yeah. And, we can imagine some sensitivity, but also some willingness to share. We'd have to explore that.
Right. I mean, yeah, they may want to say, no, we don't want to tell you.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Everybody hates us.
Yeah. Okay. The time of year, this is it. So we asked when was your last visit? We asked was it during a peak season? Was it during a holiday weekend, or was it not either of those two things? And this is the satisfaction on the left and the likely to recommend on the right, and it doesn't really change. It's kind of interesting. More people were here. I don't remember what the split is, but more than half the people were here under peak holiday, but it doesn't really affect things. Sorry. The open-ended comments here are really, I think, were really important because it brings up, nuances and other issues. So first thing we asked is, what's the best thing about Woodstock? And 60% of the people said something about the feel of the place. It's a small town. It's my place of joy. It makes me feel peaceful. It's beautiful. 20% said the people. 16 said parking. 15 said, shopping. Parking. They love parking. Right, exactly. Specific events, lodging and dining. A couple of other random things. I think a couple people said the Woodstock Pharmacy. We need to fix that because that was the thing that was most pleasing. Then we asked them, what's the one thing you would change about Woodstock? I love this. The leading thing was nothing.
The what?
The leading answer was nothing. What would you change about this? 27 people wrote nothing. That's not blank. 27 people wrote nothing.
Nothing.
I would change nothing. Don't change anything about Woodstock.
Great.
Nothing.
But 27 people, 25% of the people also said it had to do with access to dining, more longer hours.
Gotta feed them. Just gotta feed them.
Right. And actually, if you look at shops and restaurants open more hours, that kind of maybe makes the eat and drink. It was mostly restaurants. Interestingly, so fewer crowds, less traffic, and of the 14 people who said that, I would say half of them understood. It made a comment indicating they understood the irony of their response, but I think it's something, it goes, Jeff, to your comment about buses and crowds and so forth, that the crowds don't just affect the residents, they also affect negatively some of the visitors. Yeah. Yeah. Now, this is not, I mean, this is 6.5% of the people. So, but we only asked what's the most important thing. There's a whole, there's a whole series of small things here.
Wow,
One person mentioned restrooms.
that's what I just looked at. That's amazing.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that other people, it might have been the second thing that they would have fixed. You know what I mean? It's, but it is kind of interesting to
But
see.
if you're,
Most people didn't stay. I don't think it's in here, but a good enough, we may see it. I think we can infer it from some data in a minute. Anyway, yeah, again, that doesn't yet mean anything, but this is sort of when we ask them about, no, I don't think we're going to have the data, Susie, but we do have it. A good number of, I think 50 plus, I think about half the people didn't stay overnight. Let's just see, hold on.
Not stay overnight.
Yeah,
It's a day-
actually, I
a
can tell
day
you,
tripper.
48. Yeah, okay, so this chart shows how many people did the thing left to right. So the further right is, so 90% of the people shopped and 23% of the people went to cultural events. So actually, Susan, we can see that about half the people stayed overnight and half didn't.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can see how satisfied they were. Now, remember, this chart starts at 75%. So people were pretty satisfied, but if you wanted to make a distinction, they were most satisfied with the shopping and outdoor stuff. Least satisfied with the dining. And again, we're not trying to pinpoint this to the decimal point. So I think that's basically it. So that's what the external survey shows. Yeah, Roger.
Yeah, I think the resident survey has a big enough response rate that you can draw more than just kind of qualitative conclusions. This, I don't think you can draw qualitative conclusions from it, but it's very iffy to draw any kind of quantitative conclusions from it. And I think one thing that would help this discussion is somehow, and I don't know how one would do this besides having people stand around with clickers, is to come up with some kind of enumeration for the number of people who actually were here. And I don't know if there's crowd analysis things that could be done, but there were a lot more. I mean, this is probably less than 1% of visitors.
No, I think we have a good metric in terms of the trend because the Welcome Center counts the number of people that come into the Welcome Center every day, and they've been doing that for 15 years.
Right. So that's a good trend line, one way or the other.
It'll give us the percentage increase.
Right.
I think that's a pretty reliable.
I would agree with that, but I think it's hard to draw any kind of quantitative conclusions out of such a small number of respondents, especially since we're not even clear which list all of those respondents came from, or at least at this point.
It doesn't matter which, these are all people that visited. So it doesn't really matter which list.
I think that you send out to a list of 30,000 people that you've essentially mined through contests.
But
that's a really different list than somebody who walked into the
first question on the survey is, have you ever visited Woodstock? The answer is no, you don't, they're not counted.
Yeah, but that's a volunteered, there's no way to check that.
There's no way to check any responses to any survey.
So
Right, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with your point about numbers, it's just survey, I mean,
it's a survey.
Sorry, the conclusion that at least that I draw, and then let's, and Greta, you be next. The conclusion that I draw is that satisfaction could be, people are generally satisfied. They're actually pretty satisfied. It could be higher, and it's a little worrisome that looks like it might be going down. That's the conclusion I draw. I think,
and is there any way to identify what needs to be fixed?
There is actually, there is. I mean,
one second, sorry, Michael, Greta first, then Michael, Greta, then Susie, then Michael. Greta, go ahead.
So just to kind of respond to Roger and a few other comments that were made, so this is a very small amount of responses. Yes, that is correct. But they will be rolling in. Beth has a QR code linking the survey at the visitor center. And we spoke with class 4 about attaching it onto their email that goes out to the people who have recently visited specifically versus just a big blast out to everyone who, the majority of which have never come to Woodstock. So hopefully there will be more information rolling in, and that's all I want to say.
All right, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Susie.
So I think that, you can look at Reddit. There's a lot of discussions on people's impressions on Reddit. There are ways you can fill it. It is a super small sample size.
Agreed.
But there are ways you can fill it out with more qualitative stuff.
Agreed. And actually, just to be clear, there is a service which analyzes the comment. You can buy a service. It's expensive, but it's affordable. To basically analyze every comment about Woodstock, Vermont that's been made on 150 different travel sites around the world. Trending, is it related to food and stuff? It's phenomenal what's available.
$60,000.
No, it's not that, but it's.
I heard that.
Well,
I talked to somebody who did one of those.
Yeah, no. Okay, well, anyway,
Yeah.
we could get more information if we wanted to go down that path. Jeffrey, oh, sorry, Michael.
I just want to say that from the point of view of someone who is facing these people in more than hundreds, thousands over the busiest time of the year, and I hear their comments when we ask them, how are you doing? What do you think of things? So this is anecdotal. It's not a survey, official survey. However, the feedback mirrors what you have there, with the biggest complaints being food. And other than that, we're having a great time. We love your town. That's what we hear over and over and over again. So just anecdotally, I want to throw that in there because we're talking to these people.
But asking, I think the easiest way to expand our insights is to get some of the lodging surveys. I mean, that's I think is a really good idea.
That's a great idea. Talk to the lodging people.
Oh, hold on one second, Mike.
Yeah. And so one of the things I'm just kind of curious though about is, like with the community survey, I'm really intrigued by the people who are unsatisfied. So like, this is your home, like, how can we make this better for you? For the tourism, I'm maybe less, because like, what if they just Woodstock so good thing for them?
John, it's very hard to hear, Michael.
Sorry.
What if coming to Woodstock just like wasn't a good idea for them because like for whatever reason they don't like Vermont countryside farm to table, like they came to the wrong place. I've had people come to me and say we should rally to bring a Trader Joe's to Woodstock. I'm like, well, Woodstock's just not a good spot maybe for you, and so like
that's a good
when
idea.
we look at housing upstairs, TJ is downstairs, stick it right over in the East End, sure. No, but like the point is with like the tourism survey and some of like the detracting, I would make sure that when we see people who are unsatisfied or have problems, like keep in mind, like, okay, maybe like we don't have to meet them. I'm more interested, like when I looked at that, we all just jumped to the unsatisfied parts of it, but I saw that environment, feel, and beauty. And the most satisfied people were the people who came here to do outdoor activities. And I'm like, well, hell, rather than trying to spend money to convince those 4 people that Woodstock doesn't suck, let's bring 800 more people that want to come ride their mountain bikes.
I think the what's the best thing about Woodstock gives us further confirmation of what we should be communicating. I agree with that. Susie? Right.
I think that I think that why focus on the dissatisfied people? There's always opportunity to improve. That's like where really good kernels are. And I think if you were to dive into it, you're going to find people are frustrated with congestion. I think there's easy ways. And there sounds to me, based on the emails that you got, that there are ways to, people will agree, get rid of the non-profitable tourists that just come, they clog up the streets, they take their photos and they contribute to congestion and that's it. Get rid of them. And then I think you're going to see things change. for residents.
Yeah. Folks online, any comments you want to make? About the survey or? Survey everybody. Okay. Loud.
I mean, I can, John, I can just mirror Jeffrey and just say that, you know, the anecdotal people are really happy. Even when you say, oh, it's Diet Monday, I'm really sorry. You can go here.
That's awesome.
Monday.
You know, people are generally fine. And I want to say one other thing, and I know, and I am not a huge proponent of buses, so please understand that. But the buses aren't taking up the parking spaces. We had more people come this year that drove themselves, couples that drove here from away. And I think that's part of the parking issue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So these are the survey results so far. A good idea to multiple ways to expand the insights on what visitors are actually thinking. Let's just leave that. I mean, that's valuable to.
Yeah, John, can I?
Larry wants to say something.
Larry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know when to interject this, but so I'm going to do it now. Is the genesis of all of this was talking about the marketing budget, and I just wondered what the process is going to be to pull this analysis and maybe fixing some of the problems and whatever. How are we going to tie that into marketing?
Yeah.
Or should I not even ask that question right now?
No. I think that's fair. The answer is the same as, at least in my mind, the process is as follows. And my opinion about what the process should be hasn't changed. So you want to answer it, or should I answer?
No, I have another question.
Another segment. Okay. So I think the way I see it is that the current marketing budget runs out at the end of February. We need to, by then, have a discussion about the marketing plan. Greta and Marion are the new EDC representatives on the marketing committee. Jeff is also a member. Patrick will be stepping aside. He's there to sort of help transition. I know that the marketing group is developing a series of proposals, one of which I'm sure will be to continue using the platform in the most effective way that they would recommend. They've told us that the platform can't be really downsized, which, by the way, I agree with that. I know some people have questioned that, but we're lucky to be getting the services we're getting for $100,000. It's ordinarily we would be paying a lot more for getting what we're getting. And Class 4 has really, decided to serve us in that way. But I have asked Greta and Marion to please make sure that the marketing group also comes back with a plan C, some alternative to 100 or 0. Last year, those were the only two options we had because of circumstances, and we made a decision. We picked between those two, and I suggested that we not be faced with that choice. That will happen in either January or February. In parallel with that, I'm going to suggest this tourism effort should proceed, I think, with a public meeting to share the results of the survey and then begin to brainstorm and collect information from the public and brainstorm among them and us about which of the issues we should be looking at in more detail and starting to come up with ideas for, are buses the lowest hanging fruit, or is food, or what are the 3 bus ideas or the 5 food ideas or the parking ideas or the bathroom ideas or whatever it is. I don't think that will be done by February. If it is, we will incorporate that into whatever decision we make when the marketing group comes back to us with options. But the reason why I have asked Greta and Marion to make sure that there is an option C, which is something other than 100 or 0 with the current platform, is that I anticipate that we will not be nearly done by February with understanding what the options are for us to do and what we might need to fund. And therefore, that we need to have an option which says, we're not gonna spend $100,000. We're gonna do something different for a period of time until we can figure out what the experience part of our tourism strategy is. I suppose this starts, I'm skipping over a point in the memo, which was in sequence, Larry. So let me go back to it in way of answering your question. I proposed last time, and I would, if we're ready to, I'd like to make a motion tonight to change the language of our marketing priority, not by eliminating marketing, but by defining it, our objective as developing and growing a sustainable tourism strategy.
Exactly what
That provides a satisfying experience to residents, merchants, and visitors. And that, to me, has two legs to it. One is to attract people to Woodstock, because without it, you can't have a tourism economy. And the second is to invest and provide whatever is needed, or as much as we can, to give people who live here, work here, and visit here a satisfaction. So, and I don't think we will have that plan by February, and therefore I think we need to have a kind of a temporary holding marketing plan. I don't think we should stop personally. I mean, we could decide on zero. That's our decision.
Should we have a separate meeting just dedicated to that?
No, we'll have a proposal from the marketing group. Yeah, I mean, coming to us when they are ready to bring it to us.
Yeah.
But my point is that I think we don't want to have just a 0 or 100 proposal. And so we'll have 3 proposals at least from the marketing group. And wherever we are, Larry, in this process of the tourism, of the analysis of how to provide a greater experience, if that's what we think we should do, it's what I think we should do, then we will take that into account when we vote on which of the marketing plans to have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it strikes me that the things that are considered problems would get worse if our marketing goal was to increase the number of people who come here at certain times of the year.
If that's the case, then when we vote on the marketing budget, if that's the conclusion you've reached at that time, then you'll vote according to that belief.
When are we gonna have?
Marion, and then when I forgot who both of you are,
And then,
Roger, then Susie.
yeah, just a quick question, because I think the whole sort of like how we think this through was gonna be based, how we think this through was gonna be based on 3 surveys. And I'm wondering when we'll have, or when we think we'll have that information about how tourism is impacting the businesses.
The merchants. We're going to, I hope we're going, I know, look, this is all taking longer than we thought. I think we have an opportunity to distribute the merchant survey next week, because there's a meeting of the merchants, and they'll all be in one, or many of them will be in one room, and we have a printout of the survey. So, you know, Jeff and Beth may want to add a few questions to that. That's fine. We'll print it at the bottom. And so I think we can distribute a survey next week. We've already have our survey, and so
I'm just thinking to have the full picture.
yeah, I think we'll have that full picture by early December. Does that sound right? I mean, we have a survey. It's got 9 questions on it. We're going to print it out. We're going to give it to Jeff and Beth. They're going to have a meeting of the merchants. They're going to hand out the survey with our questions and theirs on it. I think we'll get it back. So the answer is early December.
No, I just.
Yes, no, correct. And I will take that into account. I didn't mean to to ignore that. Sorry. Okay, no, sorry, Roger.
So I have
Deborah.
2 or 3 points. I'll try to make them quickly.
Okay.
In your statement of purpose, I personally think that language needs to be so that it isn't totally focused on tourism, because there are other parts of this economy that the EDC can help impact, and that marketing communications should certainly, to a considerable extent, focus on the visitor economy. But there's also other things that could be focused on,
like childcare or housing,
or just different things. I think that you're begging the question with that statement, or you're narrowing the question with that statement to an extent that I think I disagree with. But you know, that's me. The second is that I think that the marketing question is a lot simpler than we've made it out to be. I don't think you need to have come up with all of the strategies to mitigate downsides of, or dissatisfactions or whatever, I think you need to have a marketing plan that gets back to basics, that is using appropriate and much less expensive technology to do the job that needs to be done, which is communicating and reaching out to visitors, residents, potential residents. And I don't think that's rocket science. I think it's, and I do think though that an effort, what I would propose is you budget $50,000 next year to develop a website. And then, but that's at least a 2 or 3 month process. So the sooner you make that decision on how much you're going to spend, and I don't see how you can justify continuing to spend over $100,000 for marketing.
But, okay.
So I want to talk what Larry said about the problem being, you know, too much tourism. I don't actually think, I think the problem is that we have too many of the wrong type of tourists, and we don't have enough of the, you know, the high quality tourists, you know, and that means, and I'm not talking about money, but like I'm talking about like what I tuned in on the same thing, because this is what we came to Woodstock for, was the natural beauty and that type of stuff. So I think, you know, people have these feelings, especially after a brutal tourist season, that, you know, the too congested, they couldn't get to their stores. We couldn't even go all of October. We normally go do our shopping at the farmer's market. We couldn't even get through the streets, so we just didn't do shopping. So I think it's a problem of, you know, looking at the types of tourism that we're having, the types of the tourism that is problematic, how we can fix that, and there are solutions, and then how you can get more of the other ones. I don't like the idea of saying, well, tourism is a problem. Tourism, there are parts of tourism that are problematic, but they can be fixed.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'm just absorbing everything that's being said. It's just so many to it. The biggest thing that I wanted to say was that I would like to not vote on the language around the marketing tonight. I just feel like I think we need to grok on that a little bit more, because it's so important. And I think to just focus it on a tourist economy feels like it's negating so many wonderful things about Woodstock that's so important to the economy. And just so I think it would be really great if we could set up something where we can put our ideas into the hopper some way and pull them together and pool them together, and then, you know, look at them, you know, and do a little wordsmithing for the beginning of December on that, because I think that would be an exercise that's really important.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, one, you know, that's fine. I don't want.
I think it's more than that.
Just to be clear, I know people hear marketing. The word marketing doesn't, by the way, I agree. We definitely, let's continue to discuss this.
Yeah.
As you all don't leave this meeting and begin to think about it, I just encourage you to go back to the memo.
Yeah, no,
But just to be clear, right, the word marketing does not appear in the words that I proposed. So when we discuss this next month, and we don't have to do it next month, I think in the next few months,
yeah,
we should come to it. Sorry, let's just be clear. We currently have 5 objectives, right? One of them is to market Woodstock.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Until we change that, that is one of our 5 objectives, to market Woodstock. None of the other 4 touch on marketing or tourism. One of them indirectly does, which is rejuvenation of downtown. So all I'm suggesting is that I think we're leaving. Yeah.
Can I just?
So as you think, I'm not advocating that we adopt my language. I'm trying to highlight what I think my language says, and most importantly, what it doesn't say.
Okay,
so
I just wanted to finish. I thought I heard you say I'd like to vote on this tonight.
I did.
Oh, okay.
On the no, I'm totally fine. We're definitely not going to vote on it because there's more discussion to be had.
Okay.
What I wanted to vote on was the sentence that's in the memo.
Okay. So, and then the other piece of it, which deals with, I feel kind of snobbish about like, this isn't the right kind of tourist, that always kind of like, but I understand it, but I also get a little bit like, ooh, and yet, there's, to gear towards certain types of events or certain types of people. And that's, I think about when I was a kid here and how every little corner of Woodstock had an artist and had a craftsman and and it feels like that could be a part of our marketing. And the fact that, the graph showed that it was about the environment, and then it went down for dining, which was kind of heading down in the middle, and that cultural was way down here.
Well, but still 75%, by the way.
Okay, but still, okay, it's 75.
Lower.
It's lower, but to get that higher, that kind of tourist that we may want, that the cultural thing needs to be higher, and that marketing some of the cultural things and some of the artists and some of the other things may help us. And so I would head towards marketing some of our talent,
right,
and some of the other things. I would think about that in our languaging of our resources, not just our stores, our talent, our in town.
So, well, all right, so just to be clear, we're at the end of our meeting. We're not going to vote on this tonight, but I do want to leave you with the language that I'm proposing. Because it does not mention stores, it does not mention marketing. It leaves completely open and presumably something to absolutely pursue every single thing that you just said. What I'm proposing we do, and until we do this, our priority is to market Woodstock, period, full stop. And so until we change it, that's what we are obligated to pursue. I think the data suggests that pursuing our current priority of marketing Woodstock, full stop, is not what's in the best interest of our community. And so I think we should change it, not tonight. It doesn't matter. We don't have to do it tonight. And I think, so something that we might want to change it to, which if you listen to carefully to this, everyone, I think gives us the space to come to deal with all of the subtleties, and not like in December and January, like over the next 2 years, right? Instead of marketing Woodstock, we could say as one of our priorities, this is not the EDC's priority, it's the EDC's one of 5 priorities, is to develop and grow a sustainable tourism economy that provides a positive experience to residents, merchants, and visitors. I'm saying precisely what that says, nothing more, but nothing less.
In the context of the 5 priorities.
Doesn't necessarily mean bringing in 100,000 more extra people.
It's
bringing in something that
it says what it says. No, it leads us down a path of looking at a range of issues that are broader, that include all the issues we're looking at now, and broadens that range. Right now, our objective is marketing Woodstock. That's what we voted on. We had a year's worth of discussion. We had 8 public meetings in it. We voted on it. We wrote it down. We went to the select board. They agreed. So I think that what this does, or some, it doesn't have to be these words. It could be something else. I mean, but what? Yeah. No. I'm not arguing for that. I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry, Greta, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you want the quick Cliff Notes version of the update about marketing before we adjourn, just because it might also clear up a couple things we've talked about?
Yes, please do.
Or just address a couple things. So the marketing working group, and we've got some things coming up for Wassail, the holidays, Thanksgiving, that are being worked on, and a couple cool initiatives for Giving Tuesday and Small Business Saturday that are going out to that big email list that'll hopefully drive people to be buying from Woodstock-based businesses. And it's more targeted than just sending it out to everyone. It's, it's going to be, oh, you did this sort of thing. Maybe you want to buy that that item that you saw at Unicorn or something. It's a targeted thing. Anyway, that's going out. That's one of the initiatives. We're also really, the marketing group and Class 4 is paying close attention to all of these survey results and very aware that the initiatives are likely going to be shifting in 2024. And I would like to just mention that Class 4 is they're working on a proposal that's not just going to be all or nothing. So I want to say that when we comes to January, February, when we start talking about these budgets and everything, it's likely that we'll have a few different options or a few different combination of ways that we can go about it. And Marion, do you want to add anything to that?
I maybe just the fact that those, I'm new to this, so really, I'm just trying to kind of get up to speed, but I know that those two emails that you mentioned that are Giving Tuesday and Small Business Saturday are really mostly directed at online shopping. So they're actually designed not to drive physical people here. And so that's, I think, maybe a test of that concept as well.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, I've seen the programs put in the listserv and it says the EDC is doing this and that, and I don't know anything about it. And I only had one instance of somebody asking me and I said, I just didn't know what it was. So can we, when you have these programs that you're going to advertise in the listserv and whatever, could you just send out a memo to the group so we know what it is?
Absolutely. The listserv post came from Patrick and we weren't aware he was putting that on there, but that for sure going forward, that makes a lot of sense. And yes.
Okay. So public meeting, we are going to have to go over just for a minute because I don't want to, just make this up. I think we should meet before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I think the meeting should have two parts. One is a presentation, so 3 parts. A presentation of the results, a kind of some statement about what the EDC includes from this, which I was hoping would be the single sentence that I drafted, because I think actually, once you back away from it, it's pretty hard to not agree with it. Even in the language that's written. So I actually, just as I think about the public meeting, I think there need to be 3 parts. There needs to be a part 1, which is here's what the survey shows. There needs to be a part 3, which is let's start to talk about the ideas. Control of this issue within the realm of the EDC, and sort of says this is what we've concluded, and here's and so
maybe an opening statement clarifying that would probably be helpful.
I agree.
I'd
like to
do it during the course of the meeting.
Right. I'd like to suggest the opening statement.
Okay.
Which is the sentence that I read. But let me just explain why.
We rehearsed it.
Basically, what I'm suggesting is right now we have a single prong priority among 5: housing, childcare, rejuvenation of the downtown, supporting events. The 5th one is market Woodstock. It seems to me that what the survey suggests is that when we talk about marketing Woodstock, we should also be talking about giving our constituents positive experiences. It's as simple as that. That's all this says is, and maybe that's the way to say it, is that, yeah. So, right.
What you're saying now is the heart of what people said on market Woodstock, and it's what we asked, what we meant.
Yeah. Right. In other words, let's have our first priority have 2 pieces that we think about: how do we market Woodstock? How do we market Woodstock? By the way, maybe exactly the way we're doing it now, maybe totally different from the way we're doing it now, maybe more expensively than we're doing it now, maybe less expensively than we're doing it now, maybe including, Deb, all of the things that you were describing that would be important, maybe not, any of those things. But let's keep marketing Woodstock. That's implicit in the notion of develop and grow a tourism economy. You can't develop and grow a tourism economy without marketing. It doesn't say anything about, other than that we have marketing. and then the second piece is that there are clearly concerns on at least serious enough concerns, justified or not, by our local community. There's some indication that visitors might be satisfied, although it's, they're pretty satisfied. And we haven't heard from the merchants yet. So improving the experiences or addressing the concerns that people have also needs to be part of it. So to me, that all this says is those two things need to be part of what we think about. And that's a conclusion that the EDC has never made. In fact, we have explicitly not made it. Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, the most important thing we can do at a simple level, and the way to get us off of, is it 68% or 72%, and get us onto, if we all agree that we shouldn't have buses, let's start talking about how do we not have buses, is to basically make the commitment that says, look, the EDC now understands, we don't have to debate the extent of it, but we understand that our first objective, or number one, it's not the most important, but it's first, it has to be first on the list, is a two-part thing. It has to do with attracting people, and it has to do with giving us and them a good experience. That's all it says. Now, maybe my words don't say that. There's a better way to say it. It's fine with me. But I would like to be able to say, we've concluded that in November. Unless, and by the way, that's just my opinion. If you guys don't think we should say that, we don't have to. We can still have the meeting. So that's sort of, if we could just talk about that. Let me just get the EDC members' feedback on that point first. And it's really, by the way, if it's okay, if you guys don't agree, that's fine too. And if you want, we can work out, well, I think we need to have the wording. We can say it somewhat differently, but let's just, how do people say, Michael, you look like you're.
Yeah, no, I agree with the notion of it. I think the word that everyone's getting stuck on is the word tourism, and the heavy emphasis of it into, it being what is the driver of our economy versus just calling out the economy.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, all right, yes. So yeah, okay.
Better explanation.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Okay.
The operative for the experience, we want to create experiences beneficial and positive for residents and.
Well, no, I think what we're saying is we're not sure that, I mean, Bridgewater doesn't have visitors. So I think what you're exactly right. You're exactly
Greater
right.
than that.
Okay, it's greater than that. All right, so
That's exactly right.
all right, I was hoping to avoid this, but no, but it's.
So you started with me, so you did a bad job.
I just don't think it's gonna happen tonight.
Okay, no, we're not gonna resolve this tonight. We have a simple choice. All right,
No, I just wanted to make a comment, but
okay, no.
when you allow it,
Sorry?
I wanted to make a comment when you allow it.
Okay, soon. We need to have a discussion about what are the different ways in which the Woodstock economy can succeed. Right? We need to have that discussion.
Okay.
It's a shame that over the time that I've at least been on the EDC, that in the 15 meetings at least that we've had to talk about what our list of priorities are, that list of priorities doesn't reflect what we think our economy can be, which is the only thing I can conclude from the fact that we still want to talk about what our economy can be. I don't know how many times, I mean, I have to tell you that I'm personally frustrated that it's not any person, but collectively, I don't know how many times we can have that discussion. It's fine with me if we change it, but it strikes me that the overall set of our priorities isn't the kind of thing that should change quarterly. And we've talked about it over and over and over and over again. Now, that doesn't mean we don't think it should be talked about again. If we think it needs to be talked about again, it needs to be talked about again. But I'm just disappointed that in our discussion of our priorities, and by the way, you weren't part of that, you're coming in new, but that's, I think, not why you're raising the question. You're raising a legitimate question, and many people have, let's attract, let's make it a high-tech hub for entrepreneurs, whatever. So I think that's really the thing. So maybe what we do is, maybe what we say is, look, it's not, let's do two things in parallel. Let's not make the statement at this public meeting that tourism is the driver or an important driver, or even that I suppose we could go, I don't know how far we want to back off from it, but maybe can we admit that one element of our economy is tourism?
No,
Absolutely.
I can't agree.
Yeah.
Look, I have to say something. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that, Michael, you have to understand something. I don't know, how many years have you lived here?
4.
4, okay. I lived here 52. Tourism is the major economic engine in Woodstock. Has been, is going to be. And that part's not going to change. And so, although some people might disagree with me, I'm convinced that the majority of people would understand that is the major economic engine in Woodstock. And that the 600 or more employees of the tourist industry in Woodstock are really important. And the people you're supporting with your housing program, majority of them are working in that industry, the majority, not all of them. And John's words, which expanded beyond marketing to include the experience people have, both residents and visitors, I think were really good words. And we need to sustain that economic engine. So to downgrade tourism as being important is a huge mistake.
I don't-
I think for it.
Wait a minute,
Joe.
I think that's what's being said.
All right, Joe.
I haven't said 5 words yet. I'm going to say
Oh.
plenty right now.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
I think we have to fully recognize, and I'm sorry, I got to push back, Mike. Woodstock has or is a tourist-based economy. I've been saying that for years. It is. It's reality. We don't have an agricultural economy in Woodstock any longer. We don't have an industrial economy in this town. We are a tourist-based economy. We have to recognize that, accept that, in my opinion. But the question is, how do we handle it? That is the question, in my opinion. Not that, oh, is it or isn't? It is.
Yep.
Okay, how do we handle it? So, and that's where these surveys, I think, are very valuable. Because not only are we a tourist-based economy, it is the home of a lot of people here too. And that has to be a sensitive issue. So I think, my opinion, our goal, our job is to see how we handle this tourist-based economy and not negatively affect the people who live here. That's my endeavor.
I want to make sure that I'm clear with what I was saying about why the wording of it that at the beginning was bothering me. Putting it front, it is a tourist-based economy. We all, we know that. Yeah, nobody it is what it is. This is what it is, it is. I'm wanting to finesse it because I also think culturally,
Yes.
if we're just focused, and I'm not saying we're just focused, but if the wording is just about tourist-based, the functionality of a tourist-based economy without having at the forefront who we are culturally, who we want to be culturally, what we want to do culturally as a community, that needs to be at the forefront.
You didn't hear what I said.
I did.
When I said what, so the important thing is is how do you
Yeah.
manage it?
I
And that's where you come, and then that's where that comes
I
in.
think she's agreeing with you.
I'm
I
not-
was not disagreeing.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying I want to be careful in the wording is the thing that 5 years from now, when we're all gone, not dead and gone or whatever, but when we're like what we're setting in motion, we want to set in motion so it's not just this is a tourist-based economy and it runs away from us. And we want to set it up. We want to set it up that the cultural is in the forefront.
That's what.
Well,
I know.
but I take Michael's point though about the wording and.
I think it's the word, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's just do it.
But of like defensive thought and also like comment, like for me, it's definitely, when I'm saying we're like, let's look at supporting marketing the economy. I'm not saying that that's not a tourism economy.
Right.
I'm saying like, well, maybe limiting it to a tourism economy is going to leave things that might not be right of mind or be top of mind outside of that. And so that's one piece of it. And the second piece, though, in thinking a little bit about the role of this body and, you know, just like how we're perceived by the public, I think a lot of people look at tourism as a problem in town. We saw that there's a fair amount of that. And that if we then come out and say, well, our marketing isn't to market to talk about how this is
A great place to live.
a great place to live, it's focused on tourism, we are doubling down that we're exasperating potentially a problem in their eyes without us fully understanding it based on the other two surveys.
Right.
Culture.
Roger, and then I want to make.
So,
Okay, all right, Roger. Susan.
I agree completely with what Mike is saying. I think it's said more artfully than what I said. I don't think that anybody with a modicum of rationality is saying that tourism is not a huge component of this economy, but there are other components of the economy. And I think you can do marketing communications. If you do it well, you can do it so you're communicating with multiple constituencies. And to Deborah's point, you're communicating about mountain biking and gravel grinding and cross-country skiing and things that are potentially have the opportunity to change to some extent the tenor of the kind of visitation we get. I'm not saying it's going to be solved. And I'm one of those people who has said from the beginning, we have to spend money marketing communications. I think we have to spend it more strategically
Differently.
than we have been. But absolutely, we need to support the tourism as a critical component of the Woodstock economy. I don't think anybody with any sense is going to say otherwise.
Okay, Susie.
But I also think that a critical part of the Woodstock economy is all the people like myself and Mike and all these other people who work out of state. We bring our money into here. We go shopping. We hire, I have a contractor coming in. I've got a painter coming in. All of that, you don't see it because they don't have a storefront, but that is very much a part of the economy. And in terms of revenues earned for the town, that part of the economy is much more important than the tourism.
Which is why we have a priority to provide childcare capacity and to provide housing.
I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying it rankles me when we just say that we are a tourist community.
Oh.
No, or
I think, yeah, let me,
Anybody else?
That was.
I'm on the board of a clothing company. And we make a whole range of products for Polo, Ralph Lauren. It's now grown to be 70% of our business. And we are very, very excited about that 70%. And it scares the shit out of us. Because every 4 years we have to renew the contract with Polo, Ralph Lauren. And if they cut that contract, there's no ratcheting back like there is in Woodstock where we can, we basically go out of business. That I think is and so we spend a lot of time thinking about that other 30%. Not as much time as we spend thinking about the 70% because that's really important to our profitability. That to me is sort of an analogy with Woodstock. The first objective to have an objective that focuses on 70%. So I don't think it's wrong to have an objective that says that, by the way, takes what is now clearly an inadequate priority, Market Woodstock, and clarifies that the only sustainable way to market Woodstock in the future is to make sure that people have good tourism experiences, not economic experiences, but tourism experiences. But what I'm hearing is, and what I experience in this other company is, that's not enough. We also need to talk about, we also need to show a commitment to the 30% or whatever the percentage is in Woodstock. And I would rather than watering down what I think is a really important and responsive improvement to our tourism objective, I'd rather make that improvement to our tourism objective. It's a huge improvement to say it's not just about getting more people here, it's also about giving them and us a good experience. It's a tourism point. It's not a life point.
Right.
It's a tourism point. But maybe what we should do is to say, and while we're recognizing the importance of tourism, let's also recognize that there's more than tourism, and let's add a second objective that's not about supporting tourism, but is about, I mean, you could call it diversifying the economy beyond tourism. You could talk about whatever words we want to use. Let's not do one without the other. Let's not do the tourism sentence without the other sentence, because that then gives, your point of view, which I share. I'm more skeptical. It gives your point of view a home, and for the people for whom that's important, and again, for our company, the company that I'm on the board of, it's really important because we're scared, and we're scared of the same thing that the people who are about tourism are scared about. Like, what if, we need to do
exactly. I mean, the tourism thing can suck up all the oxygen down.
Right.
And that isn't what I'm suggesting. I think the reality is we are a tourist-based economy. That's where most of our money is generated from. And I'm saying, okay, that's the reality. How do we manage it so it fits with our lifestyle? How does it manage it so it's as beneficial to the residents as it is to the people coming?
I don't want to put words in Michael's mouth, but I think what you might be saying, and I've I think is that there's a group of people in Woodstock that are not insubstantial, who basically don't want this to be a tourism economy.
That's right.
Right.
Sure.
So I think what you're suggesting is let's recognize that.
Yeah.
And the way to recognize it would be to say, okay, let's put some effort against trying to envision not alternatives, additions to that, maybe even alternatives.
Susie used the word last meeting resilient, making it more resilient.
Well, but let's be more, but let's
broader,
but-
right? It's
but
not relying on Ralph Lauren. It's
yeah. Let's. I don't want to.
Yeah, like no matter how we put lipstick on it, tourists aren't coming in late March when it's mud season, right? And so what's our tourism spend? But that's when the businesses are having the biggest issue with keeping staff and keeping people employed. So to me, it's like, well, then what's the marketing spend there? It's not tourism support and spend.
Well,
It's a good example of like a very real thing that like you hear from the small business owners that's their hard time of year isn't to try and make it during the tourism season.
Right.
To make it when it's just locals here.
But marketing isn't, if we follow the direction I'm suggesting, marketing will no longer be a priority. The purpose of marketing will be the priority. In other words, and now what we're suggesting is that there are, let's just say, to keep it simple, two purposes of marketing. One is to grow and develop a sustainable tourism economy. And the other is to figure out how we can diversify our economy and market that.
I think that's a really great.
Okay, does that work?
And that comes back to what I
So
just
marketing becomes a tool.
managing. How do you manage?
So marketing is whatever you're trying to answer the question. So I think this public meeting, I think the reason why you raised the comment about, and Deborah did too, about the wording is we don't want to miss this point in a big public meeting, because there's gonna be lots of people there and the
It's
people.
not gonna be tourists, it's gonna be.
Right, obviously.
Right, yeah.
So in this context, I like diversifying rather than resilience. The whole point of both of these legs, tourism and something other than tourism, is resiliency. But I like the word diversifying because it explicitly says something other than.
Yep.
Which I think is, what your objective was, it just says tourism, and what it needs to say something other also.
Yeah.
So if we were to go to this public meeting and say that right now we have an objective called marketing Woodstock, but that's not the right objective. It's an action. It's a tactic. It's not a purpose. The purpose isn't to market Woodstock. Our purpose is to have a sustainable, resilient economy, and that we're going to replace that priority with two priorities. One is the wording that I said, focused on tourism, to develop and grow a sustainable tourism economy that provides good experience to merchants, residents, and visitors. And secondly, is to develop options and approaches for diversifying our economy beyond tourism. And I think, Deb, your cultural point fits into both of, it isn't limited, or it can easily fit in, if that's what we think is an important dimension, it can fit into one or both of those.
That's right.
And it addresses.
And the only thing that I would say, as long as it doesn't say beyond tourism, because I think I'm not trying to
diversifying our economy.
period. Because I'm not trying to say to go beyond tourism. I don't shit.
Fine.
When I go to places, I don't Google what's the best tourist thing to do in Chicago.
Right,
I'm like, where's the best roast beef? Where's the best thing? And I want to have what the locals are doing, right? I look for the tourist experience.
Okay. So it's right. So this is
I'm not
not
trying to exclude
to
tourism.
explore our options for diversifying our economy, and I can.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we then announce that as our two priorities, to replace marketing Woodstock, and to make very clear when we say replace marketing Woodstock, whenever I describe, in fact, at the last meeting, I had a graphic which had those words on it, developing a sustainable tourism. And then underneath it, it had two boxes, marketing and experience.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just to make it clear that marketing is, we don't.
Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Yeah, we got it.
Well, they're intertwined.
I could see how this could easily derail if you say things like Woodstock is a tourist economy, Woodstock is a tourist town. No, it just, I mean,
Lifestyle, it's
I'm not.
other word.
you just say, Woodstock is a community of people, because the fact of the matter is that most of the money that runs the town does come from taxpayers and people who live here, and the money that we bring in. So if you just say Woodstock, tourism is an important part of our community, that's all you need to say, and you will not derail the
No, I'm going to use the following words, precisely these words. Actually, we can vote this down. Well, okay, I'm not. Well, let me ask the EDC members, here's what I would like to make a motion. I don't want to force it to be all that formal if people aren't ready yet. But what I'd like to say is that we're going to take the priority marketing Woodstock, and we're going, and maybe we don't even say that this is formally, this is what we've discussed. We haven't voted on it yet, but this is what we've discussed. And we're going to vote on it at the next meeting or something like that. So we don't box ourselves in, or if any of you still have, tweaking or whatever you'd like to do. But I'm going to basically say that I think that where we're headed is to replace the objective of marketing Woodstock with two things. One is developing and growing a sustainable tourism economy that provides a positive experience to residents, merchants, and visitors. And secondly, to explore options and develop plans, has that more tangible, explore options and develop plans for diversifying our economy.
Good diversification.
Thumbs up.
And I think, so Deborah, what are you?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm trying to come up with.
I'm not going to commit.
Okay, so this is where what I'm trying to come up with, and I'm playing with, is another word besides a tourist economy. And I understand that's what it is. I'm not arguing with anybody about it. I'm understanding the sensitivity to it. And the other thing I'm also understanding is what you said, which is when I go someplace, when I visit someplace, I don't want to go to the Eiffel Tower. I don't want to go to the Statue of Liberty. I want to know where the cool barbecue place is that the local goes to.
But,
Right.
but you're still a tourist.
I understand I am, but
You're
I
still a
don't want to
tourist.
look like,
What do you want to go to Eiffel Tower? You're still a tourist.
understand that. I understand that. But I also understand that there is a stigma to it. And if this is, and I'm just, that's why I put my head down. I was like, if I could come up with another phrase that could make the locals happy and that could work with something else, and still be the thing, that's what I'm playing.
Okay,
That's all I'm.
okay, let me,
It works fine.
That language a little.
yeah,
I'm just asking.
we have to work on it, but let me just say one thing.
And if you
Also-
don't want my opinion, just go with it.
No, 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 no.
Just my mind,
No, no, no.
because you're gonna,
No, 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 no,
somebody else will say it anyway and you'll have that conversation.
no, 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 no. There's a stigma to diversify, let me just put it out there. There's a stigma to diversifying our economy, to that concept. There's a stigma to both. The stigma to diversifying our economy is
It's wasted money.
get real. If anyone is get real.
Yeah.
And so I'm not arguing, I'm just, that, both of those statements are true. And I understand
Saying anything about.
my point, no, your point is you want to avoid the word tourism because it has a stigma.
I want to come up with
Yeah.
the same
I like,
concept.
I understand, but it's the concept that is stigmatizing.
Exactly right. I mean,
It's
I
the
go,
concept that's
go some-
stigmatizing.
you go someplace, the last thing you want to admit is that I'm a tourist. What you want to say is, hey, where do truck drivers get their coffee in the morning? That's where I want to go. But you're still a tourist. You hate to admit it, but you are.
What I say is, you are a resident, and you hear people say, we are a tourist economy, then you're saying that my needs are not important, because what's more important is the tourist. And so this is
Yep.
what I like about what John was saying, but I've been actually studying the issue of global tourism quite a bit, and that's one of the things that makes tourism successful is when the residents benefit as much as the.
Right.
Tourist is
Well,
not.
well, I guess what I'm trying to say is there are other people who, when you say, I don't want to use the word tourism, they say you're going to waste my money and ruin my property values.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying which group is right. And I know that I'm just going to guess that you can't, or maybe Deborah can't feel that way, don't feel that way. Fair enough. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that there are people who do feel that way. And so when we're sort of, I think, at a point where we have to be able to use the T word.
rather than a diversified economy, can we say a resilient economy?
Sure.
Or something
Oddly
that
enough,
just gets diversified?
I don't have a horse in the race. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to come up with
Okay.
other options. I mean,
I think that the language that you came up with is splitting the baby in the most effective way it can. I don't, I might not love how many tourists are here, but the fact is, yes, it's an important part of the economy. It keeps some of the stores open that I'm interested in going to. So, and I agree with what you're saying, that we've thought of a goal is marketing Woodstock, which is not a goal at
Right.
all. It's a strategy or a tactic.
To achieve some goal.
And so the goal is to keep our economy, and I think you've done it perfectly.
Why don't I do this? Why don't we do this? Why don't I simply at the public meeting, because I do think we have to say that where the EDC is at a very broad conceptual level. Why don't I simply describe this conversation that we've had briefly and just simply say, the EDC is working through this. Here are some of the words that were proposed. Here are some of the reactions to those words, and we're going to continue to work on it. Now let's remember that's item 2. Item 1 is here's what we learned from the surveys. Item 2 is here's what the EDC is in the process of concluding, haven't concluded it yet. And here's what we're debating around it. But we all agree, let's get started on trying to think about some of the problems that the survey has identified, and let's get to work on it.
can I put one in and just
Sure.
well, you vote it down or not, but what's the first line? It's that goes into the tourist economy? The tourist economy.
Developing and growing a sustainable tourist economy.
Developing and growing a sustainable visitors economy.
No, because that sounds like it benefits the business.
I'm just.
All of these words. Guys, I'm gonna include all the words. I'm gonna say tourist, I'm gonna say resilient.
This is everything. Put it, aliens, look at it too, who knows, somebody might file.
And you all will be there or can be there. You all will be there at this meeting, which we need to decide a date on.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
we're gonna all be there, and if there's a word that I forget to mention, and you'll mention it. Because that's that's fine. Right. So good. I think this was, we didn't resolve the issue, but it was a productive discussion, shows where we are, and we're gonna continue to, to work on this issue. So.
I think that concept, I think
So
we
what's
kind of
the-
all agree on the concept of splitting. into two.
I
think
agree.
that's good
I agree, and I agree. And I think, yeah, so I agree. We're in agreement on the broad direction in which we need to go, and therefore, the meeting, the second half of the public meeting has some purpose. It's something, it fits into something that's an EDC objective, which is how can we address some of these issues? Not the only thing we're gonna do, but that's one of the things we're gonna do. So folks online, are you comfortable with this?
Yeah. John, are you gonna set a public meeting tonight?
Yes.
All right, because it hasn't been clear.
Yes, I'm gonna propose, since Thursday evening seemed to be a time, I'm gonna propose the 16th, which is 2 weeks from now.
That's before Thanksgiving.
Is that's not, doesn't conflict with Thanksgiving?
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
The 23rd?
23rd is Thanksgiving,
It's
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
23rd is Thanksgiving.
Well, we could also do it,
Thanksgiving Day.
we could also do it the 29th. So, sorry? We could do it the
Yeah, give it some
29th.
time. I think that's fine as long as it doesn't get in the way of people's.
That's Wednesday.
Oh, sorry, Thursday, the 30th. The 30th. Does that work?
Yeah.
Folks on the screen, is November 30th, Thursday?
I didn't hear what was wrong with the 16th.
It's soon.
Quick.
Oh, okay. I can do the 16th or the 30th.
Okay, there is some more analysis, the open-ended comments, we can do a little bit more analysis of that, and, and also, I have to think about how we're gonna describe tonight's meeting, that's gonna take me more than 2 weeks. No,
I have to do it by a deadline of Tuesday, John. So so I appreciate any help you can give me in that regard.
So let's just say the 30th, it just gives us more time to kind of reflect on it. Okay, so the 30th, and do we want to encourage people? The sandwiches obviously was such a. Do you want to make it at 6 o'clock and have pizza?
Businesses on our,
Yeah, or even 6 o'clock and have pizza? Is that?
nothing is gonna make that easier.
We could have childcare.
No.
Yeah, okay, I'll just bring him.
No.
No, it's fine. We, yeah,
Well, people can join by Zoom. I mean, it's always be.
yeah. I think, like the 5:30, 6 o'clock spot is probably great for people, but 5:30 is a little bit
So
early.
6 o'clock is a compromise, and pizza, is that okay with?
Vote yes for pizza.
Everything, sure. we're
Okay.
not-
I just think it was.
Anything other than those sandwiches from Toledo that you got.
It was I got a wholesale deal on.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
That coming from right out.
Oh, man.
6 o'clock on Thursday,
No good
November
deed goes
30th.
unpunished.
and yeah. And it'll be similar presentation of the surveys and then basic brainstorming. We're obviously not making any decisions, right? We're just gonna have brainstorming. Someone will have several of you be scribes and writing down ideas in different categories and all that kind of general good stuff, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Any opposed?
Thank you, Greta.
Sorry,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone online.
John, I'll send you a Dropbox with the link to the recording in the morning.
Okay, thanks.
It's all your fault, John, because you said we were gonna end it.
I know, you know what?
What happened there?
I have never
Nice job, John.